Charlie, Charlie Kirky. I spot the perky. Charlie, Charlie Kirky. I just Charlie, Charlie Kirky.
Your underscore pal underscore blue 69 is the winner. Hi.
don't like them putting chemicals in the water that turn the friggin' frogs gay. Do you understand that? Turn the friggin' frogs gay. Serious crap. Gay. Frogs, friggin' frogs. It's not funny. I'm gonna say it real slow for you. Gay. Frogs. Won't you fight for your life? Gay. Frogs, friggin' frogs. I don't like a frogs. Gay. Friggin' frogs. Frogs. Friggin' frog crap. Won't you fight the frogs? It's not funny. I'm gonna say it real slow for you. Frogs.
Hello, hi everybody, it's Charlie. And oh my god. So yesterday, after I finished streaming, I was telling you guys, I was like, oh, my tummy hurts, I don't feel good, I don't know what's worse, tummy hurting or head hurting. What a year it's been, huh, girl? Welcome to January. Anyway, I look like shit, I feel like shit, but I feel better than I did 5 hours ago, let alone 8 hours ago. Okay. I can see the bags under my bed. So anyway, I got off stream a little bit after getting the kids off the bus. I immediately started vomiting. And then I spent the rest of the day vomiting. And then I spent last night vomiting. I think I got maybe a total of like an hour of sleep between throwing up and just being in stomach pain. Couldn't keep water down, couldn't keep applesauce down, couldn't keep Pepto down, couldn't keep anything down. So, just like the last time. So, I called and canceled a couple of my appointments today, and then finally around sounds like some very bad food poisoning. Well, this is the third time this month I've had it. The third time. Because it was like right after my son's birthday, around it around Thanksgiving I was sick with the same thing. Well, it was like a day or two longer. Then uh then again around my birthday I had the same thing. Or no, Christmas Eve. I had the same thing. And then I again. So it's been like every 2 weeks I've been hurling my guts up for like a full 24 hours to 48 hours. But around I would say 1 o'clock is when I finally was able to keep 2 applesauces down and a full, what is this, 40? 24 ounces of water. So be careful, hun. There's a flu going around. I have 2 kids in school, in public school. Okay. It's like living with 2 European colonists from the, like 1500s. All right. They bring smallpox home every day. There's no way I can avoid it at all. It doesn't matter how often I get them to wash their hands, or when I get them to wear a face mask, or me washing a face mask, or wearing a face mask, or me constantly making sure everything's as clean as I can keep it. Doesn't matter. They cough and sneeze in my mouth, whether I like it or not. Okay. We had a whole thing like 2 weeks ago when everybody had this real bad like throat cough when I was like real congestiony. I think I canceled stream for them too. Um, my boys were just coughing in each other's faces back and forth. Like one would cough on one, so the other one wanted to cough on the other. So there's no protection here. All right. We are raw dogging, but not like raw dogging like holistic medicine and like anti-vaxxers. We're like raw dogging as in like we go to the doctors and we take our vaccines and we do all of that. Like it's an unfair raw dog, okay? So anyway, I have been in and out of consciousness since oof. At one point I threw up and when I threw up in the toilet, I got backsplash. So I was like, I got a shower. Like for the men in the chat, it's about to get real gross. When you are a woman, I did not know this was a thing. Okay, when I saw the Poise commercials on TV for like female like underwear liners, I thought it was like, you know, for people who had like conditions, like reasons they could not stop themselves from accidentally leaking when they take a pee. And by people, I mean people with vaginas, right? Specifically people with vaginas. This could happen to a trans person too who still has their vagina, okay? But after giving birth, I now understand, birth twice, I now understand that when after you've done that, you will pee yourself when you throw up or if you cough too hard. Sometimes if you sneeze too hard, okay? Yeah, or cough. I didn't know that that's what no one explained that to me. Yeah, no one. My entire life, I have so many people in my family who've had multiple kids. My friend can't laugh too hard. Yeah, it's awful. And the worst for me is when I'm throwing up. No trampoline jumping, that one's fine for me. I just don't do that because of my ankles. That's different. But like, especially throwing up, it's like sometimes I don't know whether it's better to throw up into the trash can and sit on the toilet or the other way. Because usually after every time I throw up, I have to shower. We don't have the same bladders. I pee if I laugh too hard since I had my daughter. Gotta see a pelvic floor specialist. Yeah, or like those balls, right? You put like balls in your cooch. My BFF's wife is a good one. If it's covered by my insurance, happily takes Medicaid or whatever it is. NJ Family Care. I don't know. What is it? Those balls? They're like balls. They're like crystals or whatever, metal ones. They're like on the larger size, and people use them to like uh work out their pelvic floor. Am I making this up? They're balls. Yeah, I don't know how to describe it. Sometimes they're like metals. Sometimes they're like different types of crystals, depending on like the person, you know. But yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that they insert a catheter. At least they did for me for birth, which is gonna make that hole wider. But yeah, so anyway, I lost sense of time and self sometime around when I got in the shower from that because I threw up when I was in the shower too. And then I just sat on the floor. I don't even know how long. Eventually I got myself out of the shower and into bed. But I don't recommend it to anyone. Uh in case you don't remember mask up, go get some face masks, all right? Stay away from people. It's awful. And speaking of awful, I've been scrolling through the Discord, catching up on as much as I can. I try to catch up on Twitter a little bit. I think I officially woke up 44 minutes ago. Hobby got home and came upstairs and woke me up just to see if I wanted to stream, and by then I was like, I feel like I can stream. Like I can move my limbs, and I think getting up and talking and like being a little active might be good because I don't really want to just lay in bed awake and then not be able to like because I slept from like noon, 1 o'clock to I slept 4 hours and I already barely get any sleep at night. Like some nights I'm falling asleep at like 4 a.m. Whew. So I figured, okay, well, I'd kind of like to sleep and I'm already kind of tired, but not tired enough to go back to sleep, but too awake to stay in bed. So I was like, all right, I'll stream. If I need to leave early, I'm sure chat will understand. Liz, I did your reading just a moment ago and I took a picture of it and I'll send it to you in the over Discord so I can have time to like write out what I think my interpretation is. What I will say is that the way the 3 card spread works is it doesn't just do past, present, future. It does like potential outcome, option 1, option 2. So like asking it like past, present, future is like way too vague. So I'm going to do the best that I can with that information. Shut up, Dorothy. And I will let you know, but for future reference when it comes to the cards, you don't need like a what will I have for breakfast tomorrow kind of a question, but like for me I have to be like I need a sense of direction. While that's not necessarily a question, um that's a better way to kind of ask the cards, or even if it's just like I need a sense of direction about this particular topic, that's a way better way to ask. So I'm just letting you know that that way, next time we do this, I can give you a more accurate reading that you feel more confident in, and that I feel more confident in. All right. Since I've been catching up on the news, there have been like 4 things that I've seen. What have I seen? Maybe three. Three. Uh, I've seen that two Republican senators died yesterday. One had, I think, a heart attack, and the other one got into a car accident and then passed on the surgery table. Um, the shooting in Minneapolis, and okay, two. Thanks. Oh, Marjorie Taylor Greene is on like a tear on Twitter. I did see that. That's been fun because she's done, right? She's like done. Like her term's over. What, a year? Yeah, we're only 7 days in. I hope you guys got lovely presents from Merry January 6th. We left out shell casings for Ashley Babbitt. Uh, but ooh, let's see. All right, I think I know. We'll get to the last night's episodes of the Late Note show and Colbert later. I want to get to Philip DeFranco first because he'll give me like the most recent news, and then we can make assessments from there. But happy January 7th, everybody.
ICE just killed an American woman in her car in Minneapolis today. I just
Oh,
finished
she's dead. I didn't know officially she was like dead. I just knew that she was shot. Also, I just realized you guys can't.
today's show, which you're still going to get here because there's a lot of news we have to dive through. And the details, they're still coming out because ICE just killed an American woman in her car in Minneapolis today. I just finished today's show, which you're still going to get here because there's a lot of news we have to dive through. And the details, they're still coming out because this just happened, but here's the setup. ICE officers were on a residential street, and it looks like there were protesters there watching and recording. And a woman seemed to have her car in the middle of the road, and she was approached by an ICE officer who told her to get the fuck out of the car. She then tried to back away a little, before then going forward in her SUV. It's looking like she's trying to get away. And that's when, on one of the videos we've seen, we see an officer near the left front of the car taking out his pistol and shooting her multiple times at essentially point-blank range. The car then went a short distance before crashing into another parked car, and afterwards you had people just screaming.
You are f***ing criminals! You're f***ing criminals!
The authorities then moved to call 911, and the victim was pronounced dead. Right, again, this is still developing. There's not much we know other than she was a U.S. citizen. Also, since ICE killed this woman, more protesters have started to confront ICE agents and local officers on the scene, leading to tear gas being fired into the crowd. And eventually, you saw there was a sizable police force there, although ICE and federal agents have since left. Right, and the reactions and narratives here, depending on where you go, have been very different. Where you have the Trump administration already justifying the officers' actions, with Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem saying at a conference,
ICE officers were out in an enforcement action. They got stuck in the snow because of the adverse weather that is in Minneapolis. They were attempting to push out their vehicle, and a woman attacked them and those surrounding.
Oh my god, she looks like she was just like, the woman looks like she was just trying to get around the truck that was there, and it looked like she started to back up as soon as they were telling her to move. How is that? How is she like? She attacked them. What, verbally? Verbally is an assault now. You get in trouble for yelling at somebody. You can get killed for yelling at somebody. Is this the America we live in now?
Them and attempted to run them over and ram
Fuck
them
ICE.
with her vehicle. An officer of ours acted quickly and defensively shot to protect himself and the people around him. And my understanding is that she was hit and is deceased. We're continuing to gather more information, but this goes to show the assaults that our ICE officers and our law enforcement are under every single day.
Innocent woman driving a Suburban gets murdered, but remember, our ICE agents, those are the ones that are most important, you know, the ones that got billions of dollars in the big beautiful bill while our healthcare got stripped away. Yeah, it's totally the citizens' fault.
These vehicle rammings are domestic acts of terrorism. We're working with the Department of Justice to prosecute them as such.
with many not surprised or going with that argument, as there is precedent for defending officers who use deadly force when a car's heading towards them in some way, even at slower speeds. But then also on the other side of this, you have a lot of people demanding some form of justice. We're saying that it looked like this woman was trying to turn to the side and get away, saying at the very least it looks like the second shot was taken from the complete side of the vehicle. You had Minneapolis City Council member Jason Chavez saying that the ICE agent that shot somebody should be arrested effective immediately. With him then going on to add that there needs to be community patrols to warn people about ICE raids and prevent kidnappings. Also, you have local prosecutors pushing hard for what they call a local investigation.
I love that Minneapolis is coming together and being like, no, we need to do a community watch. We need to sit here and go and make sure people aren't getting kidnapped or killed because of these these actual domestic terrorists. ICE, local Gestapo kills woman, is upset that they had to fire gun. Like,
investigation, which is the only way to ensure full transparency and review. Additionally, you saw Minneapolis police officers apparently seeing this coming, with Chief of Police Brian O'Hara saying yesterday, "I've been concerned for weeks that because the issue is so emotional, because frankly, some of the way this stuff has been carried out, the greatest risk to me is that there would be unrest or that there would be a tragedy. That somebody could get seriously hurt or killed because of what's happening." And finally, with the city's mayor demanding that ICE leave.
yeah, okay, but that would you wouldn't need to be. I'm not saying he's saying that they need ICE. I'm just saying these issues, that death could have been preventable if you had not. Oh, I'm dropping frames. Oh no, my bars are turning yellow. There we go. We're back. We're back. We're back. If you need to refresh, speed up the timeline, but all her death could have actually been preventable by not having ICE in her state, by not allowing to continue ICE to operate in her state. She'd be alive today if it wasn't for the Trump administration. There's a lot of people that could be said about, but we're talking about this woman specifically, and ICE needs to absolutely get out of every state. Go back to being Border Patrol. Go hang out in the desert, okay? Or in the freezing hills of on the border of Canada. Fuck you. I am aware of the shooting involving an ICE agent at 34th Street in Portland. The presence of federal immigration enforcement agents is causing chaos in our city. We are demanding ICE to leave the city immediately. We stand rock solid with our immigrants and refugee community. Literally tell businesses to refuse service. I've already seen that, like, ICE was standing out front of a guy's a guy's restaurant, I think, because he put a no ICE welcome sign in the window. And so local agents and ICE agents, like local cops and ICE agents, blocked the entryway and weren't letting cars go in and out. Like, that's fucked up. That's okay. Listen, I'm not going to talk about the Hilton thing because Hilton has already backtracked and like dropped the hotel that canceled the ICE reservations. But what I will talk about, oh, thank you. Forrest put the contact or the dude's numbers info in the Discord. Especially because of the Supreme Court precedent that was set from the bakery that didn't want to make the gay couple a fucking cake. They won their case. Remember, everybody was super upset, rightfully so. But a business is allowed to refuse service to anyone based off of whatever. It doesn't matter. Like, businesses are allowed to discriminate, okay? Is it appropriate? No. Like, is it, are you allowed to discriminate on the race of like skin color? I'm not sure. I haven't looked at the law. But you know what you're not allowed to discriminate on is who the business can and can't serve. Okay? Otherwise, you need to call that fucking bakery back and tell them to make all of the gay wedding cakes. But people are allowed to refuse service. I know that's like hard for like customers to understand sometimes, because even when I worked at businesses, like retail businesses, if there was a customer that was being belligerent, disrespectful, you were allowed to be like, "I'm sorry, I'm not ringing you up, sir. I don't feel comfortable with this transaction and I have a right to refuse that service." You are allowed to do that, as uncomfortable as it is. You're absolutely allowed to refuse people's service regardless, okay? And they can't, there's no retaliation. And this is absolutely disgusting.
Immediately, although he doesn't have the power to actually enforce that himself.
Get the fuck out of Minneapolis. We do not want you here.
Right, but with this, you have many saying this incident is similar to one that happened in Chicago, where 2 people were arrested for boxing ICE in with their cars. One person there, Marimar Martinez, was accused of ramming her car into an ICE vehicle before getting shot multiple times. So there, she still managed to drive away before being seen by paramedics with relatively minor injuries. And while she and the other person were charged with assaults on federal employees, just 6 weeks later, the charges were dropped. With it seeming like the government decided to drop the charges rather than release the text messages of agents at the scene because
during a November 5th court hearing, CBP agent Charles Exum, identified as the agent who shot Martinez, questioned by Parenti about text messages he sent to friends and family after the incident, in which he appeared to boast about his shooting skills. I fired 5 rounds and she had 7 holes. Put that in your book, boys. One of those messages said. When pressed by Parenti about the messages during his testimony, Exum said, I am a firearms instructor and take pride in my shooting skills. Bro, you shot a person. It's not a fucking target. It's not a deer. It's not a turkey. It's not a squirrel. It's not a duck. It's a fucking person. I hope those ICE agents get doxxed. I hope so too. I hope every ICE agent gets fucking doxxed, man. And I hope their credit scores get ruined. I hope they throw up for 24 hours straight without being able to even keep water down. I wish every disease from Nurgle upon these motherfuckers, right?
They showed just how excited they were to shoot people. You know, here's what I'll say is this latest situation.
Hades could not come up with enough punishments that these monsters deserve. I hope everything they care about crumbles in front of their eyes. Me too. I hope they get PTSD. And, like, don't even fucking come for me. I know people have gone after, like, other streamers for being like, I hope you get PTSD to, like, American soldiers. And it's like, I'm sorry, but when your country is ruined by an armed force, I think you get to say those things. I think Venezuelans are allowed to say that about the United States. I think every Middle East country is allowed to say that about the United States. I think every Latin American country, I think basically any country that America has tried to do, like, we're here for democracy, absolutely gets to say, I hope you get PTSD. And now this includes, like, immigrants and Americans who are getting, like, shot by ICE.
Situation is developing. There is one thing that is clear. This isn't going to reduce the tensions that many people have with ICE raids.
It's
For
only
many of the
gonna get
people that
worse.
have seen this video, they're saying this is murder, but you have the administration continuing to call it a defense against an act of domestic terrorism. And that's the thing. Right now, we have an administration that has shown they have no problem, you know, stretching the truth or outright lying if the propaganda game wins. And well, of course, with this story, I'd love to know your thoughts, opinions, and reactions to this news. That actually brings us to the first thing that I wanted to talk about today with you. Everything that you think you know about January 6th, it's a lie, right? All those brave folks who entered the Capitol that day, they were peaceful, patriotic protesters just exercising their First Amendment rights. But the Democrats, they masterfully twisted reality to brand them as insurrectionists. And that, even though the Democrats themselves are the real insurrectionists for certifying a fraudulent election. That, in a nutshell, is how the Trump administration spun one of the worst assaults on American democracy during the event's 5th anniversary. We've seen Trump publishing an insane revisionist history on the official WhiteHouse.gov website yesterday.
You know, remember how yesterday I was like, if the internet were to go out tomorrow, no one would be able to have his legacy, right? All that's going to be available are, like, the paper thing that we have, the Epstein files, like all of his shitty things that he did to the tenants of New York, the way he crumbled Atlantic City. We'll have all that as evidence, but this right here, gone. Like, those are the things that give me hope that one day his memory, outside of how awful he is, will be forgotten, and that all the evidence of his existence, like 75 to 80 of it, will be gone. All of his tweets, all of his truths, all of his fucking White House, meme shit posts, gone. And I look forward to that day.
And the reactions to it, they've been just as crazy. And so let's dive into this, starting with Trump's speech that afternoon at the Ellipse. Because the White House, they claimed that he was blameless for what happened afterward, arguing that he emphasized the need to protest peacefully.
I know that everyone here will soon be marching over to the Capitol building to peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard.
But that, it was just one moment in the middle of an hour-long speech and a 3-hour-long event if you count all the other speakers. And as many have pointed out, and we're going to bounce around the speech here, if you listen to the totality of it, the tone is anything but peaceful.
Our country has been under siege for a long time. We fight like hell. And if you don't fight like hell, you're not going to have a country anymore. We're going to walk down, and I'll be there with you. We're going to walk down to the Capitol, because you'll never take back our country with weakness. You have to show strength, and you have to be strong.
Next up, the White House claims that the so-called patriots marched to the Capitol and that they were peaceful, orderly, and spirited, saying that it was actually the police who deliberately escalated tensions by aggressively firing tear gas, flashbangs, and rubber bullets.
Okay, so it's okay when ICE fires tear gas and flashbangs at a crowd of people, and it's not ICE escalating it when they do that, and it's not, federal agents from Homeland Security who escalate it. It's the rioters when it's the other way around. It's the cops when it's January 6th.
Into the otherwise peaceful crowd. Meanwhile, officers inexplicably removed barricades, opened doors, and even waved people inside of the building. Except, problem there, that's just not
Don't believe your eyes, ears, or memory. Don't believe any of it.
true, right? Some cops did lead rioters through the flimsy barricades, but that's because they were hopelessly overwhelmed by an enormous mob and they were trying to keep it under control. Right? And in truth, I don't know how many people have forgotten this, or they've just listened to the lies so much they have like this different image in the head. The rioters themselves climbed over walls and fences, they toppled barricades, they broke down doors, they shattered windows. And at this point in the White House's narrative, it's really not even clear which story they want to tell. Right? Half the time, it's like all these patriots, they did nothing wrong, and then the other half of the time, it's like actually it was a violent riot, but the Democrats provoked it. In fact, it suggests that dozens of FBI assets inside of the crowd urged everyone else to break into the building. But as we've long known, those assets were just informants, not undercover agents, and there's no evidence anyone actually working for the FBI provoked.
Is Nick Fuentes an asset / agent / undercover Democrat? I think he'd be pretty offended that you called him that, because he was in the crowd telling them to go in. I think he served time for. I think he got out before everybody else was pardoned, but he had his bank account seized because he was, telling people to go into the Capitol. So is he an FBI informant?
The riot.
I don't think he would like that. For those who don't know, Nick Fuentes is a gay Mexican who is a white nationalist. I think a Nazi, white nationalist Nazi, and he proudly admits that. I think I'm just getting the verbiage wrong. But he was in the crowd. He was a huge Trump supporter. Now he's not as big of a fan of Trump. He's openly voiced his issues, but that doesn't mean he's not still a Nazi. Okay, he doesn't like that Trump's not going hard enough. Again, his last name is Fuentes. His father, I believe, is from Mexico. He is not white. Okay.
Also, of course, the rioters were not peaceful. In fact, many of them were armed, with reported weapons including guns, pepper spray, tasers, a sword, axes, hatchets, knives, destroyed office furniture, fencing, bike racks, stolen riot shields, baseball bats, hockey sticks, flagpoles, PVC piping, and reinforced knuckle gloves. And the police, they report
the only thing worse than a Mexican, a gay Mexican neo-Nazi is a gay Mexican furry neo-Nazi, because that also exists.
reportedly suffered cuts, bruises, sprains, concussions, rib fractures, irritated lungs, and one mild heart attack, not to mention mental trauma. With one officer getting knocked unconscious, one losing the tip of a finger, many more getting smashed in the head, and others choked, pepper sprayed, and tased. So in total, over
One got
140
trampled?
cops reported injuries, many of them having to go to the hospital.
Multiple capital injuries.
The VR chat edition.
Multiple capital injuries. David Trump, we are still taking metal, sharpened objects, missiles, to include bottles and rocks, and hand-thrown chemical-grade fireworks.
Yet according to the White House, no big deal. 0 law enforcement officers lost their
That's not true.
lives. I guess because Trump doesn't care about the officer who suffered 2 strokes nearly 8 hours after being pepper sprayed and then died, nor I guess the 4 more who took their own lives in the days and months after January 6th. Plus, let's remember, if the rioters got their way, somebody else may have ended up in the gallows erected outside of the Capitol.
Yeah, the DVD code's nice.
All those names down, and we start hunting them down one by one.
Yet the Trump White House, of course, didn't mention any of that. Instead, it featured memorials to the several so-called patriots who died. With that, including Ashley Babbitt, who the White House claims was shot without warning, even though she, in their words, posed no threat. And with that, you have right-wing outlets like the Gateway Pundit and Libs of TikTok now even claiming that the cop who shot her, Michael Byrd, runs an unaccredited daycare out of his home and pocketed $190 million in HHS funds. So 1, childcare accreditation is optional where he lives. 2, that $190 million figure appears to be total nonsense. And 3, Babbitt was at the head of a violent mob crawling into the speaker's lobby where cops were guarding lawmakers. With all that said, as far as the other narrative being pushed by the White House, that the whole riot was the Democrats' fault, they mostly pinned the blame on then House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. With them pointing to footage that they claim shows her expressing regret for not accepting Trump's offer to send National Guard troops before the event.
For over 3 hours, we begged him to send the National Guard. He never did it. He took joy in not doing it, was savoring that. And right now, he was saying on TV today, I wanted to send it, they just wouldn't do it. His own Secretary of Defense, acting Secretary of Defense, testified under oath against what the president is saying.
The huge thing, Trump didn't need her permission to send the National Guard, and in reality, he was sitting back watching events unfold on TV from his private dining room. In fact, Trump reportedly resisted pressure from his allies, advisors, lawmakers, and even his own daughter to call off the riot for over 3 hours. With also the Washington Post describing those 187 minutes as follows. 25 minutes into Trump's silence, a news photographer was dragged down.
That's probably why she hasn't, you notice she hasn't been at like anything. Like I think she was at the inauguration, but I haven't seen pictures of her anywhere near them, especially even though Jared Kushner, her husband, has been doing like a bunch of deals and stuff. Like I think he negotiated the Gaza ceasefire or something like that. Man. During the 187 minutes that Trump stood by, harrowing scenes of violence played out and in and around the Capitol. 25 minutes into Trump's silence, a news photographer was dragged down a flight of stairs and thrown over a wall. 52 minutes in, a police officer was kicked in the chest and surrounded by the mob. Within the first hour, 2 rioters died as a result of cardiac arrest. 64 minutes in, a rioter paraded a Confederate battle flag through the Capitol. 73 minutes in, another police officer was sprayed in the face with chemicals. 78 minutes later, yet another police officer was assaulted with a flagpole. 83 minutes later, rioters broke into and began looting the House Speaker's office. 93 minutes later, another news photographer was surrounded, pushed down, and robbed of a camera. 94 minutes in, a rioter was shot and killed. 102 minutes in, rioters stormed the Senate chamber, stealing papers and posing for photographs around the dais. 116 minutes later, a 4th police officer was crushed in a doorway and beaten with his own baton.
Down a flight of stairs and thrown over a wall. 52 minutes in, a police officer was kicked in the chest and surrounded by a mob. Within the first hour, 2 rioters died as a result of cardiac events. 64 minutes in, a rioter paraded a Confederate battle flag through the Capitol.
This is some Star Wars shit. Wait, you're like 23, right? And this was like 2021. 2026. This was like 5 years ago. So you were like 18? Have that math right? 17, 18? I'm 22. Well, okay, so when January 6th, 7, you were like, what, 17? Had to subtract 5 from 2020 or from 2026.
73 minutes in, another police officer was sprayed in the face with chemicals. 78 minutes in, yet another
What year did it happen? 2021.
police officer was assaulted with a flagpole. 83 minutes in, rioters broke into and began looting the House Speaker's
17.
office.
Yeah, so I'm sure you weren't paying as much attention to this as like I was at the ripe old age of 30.
93 minutes in, another news photographer was surrounded, pushed down, and robbed of a camera. 94 minutes in, a rioter was shot and killed when
The 14th of January? Yeah. So like 16 about to be 17.
102 minutes in, rioters stormed the Senate chamber, stealing papers and posing for photographs around the dais. 116 minutes in, a 4th police officer was crushed in a doorway and beaten with his own baton. Meanwhile, the president was reportedly raging to people around him about the vice president. And his tweets only added fuel to the fire, starting with one that blasted Mike Pence for not having the courage to do what should have been done to protect our country and our Constitution. Then another tweet telling his supporters to support Capitol Police and stay peaceful as if they weren't already violent. And next, asking everyone at the Capitol to remain peaceful, adding no violence. violence. Meanwhile, when GOP House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy called him, reportedly Trump claimed the rioters were Antifa, to which McCarthy was like, no, they're your people. And then Trump reportedly said, you know what I see, Kevin? I see people who are more upset about the election than you are. They like Trump more than you do. And then finally, after 3 hours, Trump finally posted this video.
God, I fucking wish that had gone to fucking trial, man. This is so awful. I hate it. Like, I blame Merrick Garland, I think, the most because he brought the Trump charges way too late with enough time for Trump to run out the clock. Like, we were weeks away from him getting sentenced in like 2 things. Like the 34 count felony, he's still a felon. He's still a 34-time felon. He just never got sentenced, and his sentencing will resume at such time in the future. Like they wrote it in that they will resume the sentencing once Trump is no longer president. GTA 6 is wild with what's happening right now. GTA 6 is never going to come out.
I know your pain. I know you're hurt. We had an election that was stolen from us. It was a landslide election, and everyone knows it.
Yeah, it's going to be like it's either going to have to be more extreme. Like we're reaching Saints Row level of like fuckery. Like we're in Saints Row 3. We're not in GTA 6. Okay, we've got a bunch of crazy people and mega like crime lords heading the country. We've got all kinds of like awful stuff going on around us. You know, the National Guard it's like Stag coming in. Or not the National Guard. Yep, the National Guard coming into places feels like Stag pulling in. Like we're in Saints Row 3 right now. Everybody needs to be the main character. All right, everybody get your dildo bats.
Especially the other side. But you have to go home now. We have to have peace. So go home. We love you. You're very special. I know how you feel. But go home and go home in peace.
With that reportedly being the best of at least 3 takes because he kept veering off the script that his staff had composed for him and repeatedly had to re-record it to get one that his aides felt was palatable enough to share with the public. But then still the White
Saints Row series is dead now. I know. I'm aware. I am very aware. I still think Saints Row 3 is a great game.
House's revisionism isn't done. They also called the 2020 election the greatest election theft in U.S. history. In a section titled Betrayal of the President, they wrote, Vice President Mike Pence, who had the opportunity to return disputed electoral slates to...
Mike Pence should sue for defamation. I like some of them, though. Yeah, Saints Row 3 was great. Gat Out of Hell was alright. Saints Row 4 was kind of mid. Two was good. I liked the way 2 set up 3 in like a way that like made what happened in 3 more impactful. So I appreciated that. Although I did not appreciate the fact that they brought Gat back in a way because 4 had aliens, right? Yeah. I don't appreciate that they brought Gat back because I hate when characters get brought back when their death is like meaningful to the plot, you know? It's like if Eddard Stark had been brought back to life by some magic, or you know, it wasn't actually him, it was a stand-in and Varys had snucked him out or something. I hate when dead characters are brought back. 4 was my favorite. That makes sense. Some people really like 4. I really like the anti-government stance of 3.
State legislatures for review and decertification under the United States Constitution, chooses not to exercise that power in an act of cowardice and sabotage, and saying instead, Pence presides over the certification of contested electors, undermining President Trump's effort to address documented fraud and ending any chance to correct the election steal. Though still, after 5 years of playing whack-a-mole with these conspiracy theories, there's still no evidence the 2020 election was ever stolen. Nor are there any credible legal experts who believe that Mike Pence could have given Trump the win, and to this day, the former VP stands by that decision.
I will always believe, by God's grace, I did my duty that day to support the peaceful transfer of power under the Constitution of the United States of America.
1 plays like original Grand Theft Auto, like San Andreas almost. 2 is very similar to like, I wouldn't say Vice City, but it's like it's also like San Andreas level, but it's got a pretty okay plot. Um, it starts off with you like rescuing Gat, and then I don't know, I never beat it, but I played enough of it to know who Gat was.
But still, the White House claims that Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and other platforms, JP Morgan, Bank of America, Capital One, and other major financial institutions, plus the legacy media, all conspired to destroy Donald Trump politically and economically in the years that followed. And while, we kind of all knew that there were still people that believed this shit 5 years later, it is still to a certain degree shocking to see it laid out this comprehensively and ridiculously on an official government website. Which is then why you have people reacting online saying January 6th is crazy because we all watched it live and they're still gaslighting us about whether it happened, as well as, of course, people quoting Orwell's 1984, the party told you to reject the evidence of your eyes and ears. It was their final, most essential command. Right, and while there's a lot of focus on Trump
I can't wait for New Vegas Remastered. If they're releasing the special edition this year, like the box set with the figurine, I think they're probably gonna do it in like 2 to 4 years. But I am going to wait for it, and I have been disappointed by Bethesda too many times to want to be excited for a new game from them.
rewriting history from 5 years ago, you've got some now accusing CBS News of rewriting history as it's happening. Many accusing CBS News of turning into Trump propaganda or Trump propaganda light for months now, and these concerns are just getting louder and louder, especially after last night's evening news broadcast. Because one, in their brief coverage of the anniversary of January 6th, for some reason they didn't mention Trump's revisionist website. And two, they ran this segment on Marco Rubio's role in the Trump administration where they glazed him harder than a box of Krispy Kremes.
The many lives and many jobs of Marco Rubio, the son of Cuban immigrants and a former Florida senator. He's now the face of U.S. foreign policy and President Trump's point man on Venezuela, all in addition to his roles as Secretary of State, interim national security advisor, and acting national archivist and USAID chief. Whatever you think of his politics, you got to admit it's an impressive resume.
CBS then took a kind of cutesy, jokey pivot to show a series of memes depicting
Right now, I am that one God of War scene with Kratos yelling at Ares with New Vegas Remastered. I feel like I get that reference, but also I feel like I haven't played God of War in so long.
Rubio holding other jobs like the governor of Minnesota, the new Shah of Iran, and the prime minister of Greenland, before then adding.
Now, back in real life, of course, these memes may not add up to much, but for Rubio's hometown fans, which are many around here in Miami, it is a sign of how Florida, once an American punchline, has become a leader on the world stage. Marco Rubio, we salute you. You're the ultimate Florida man.
And for many, this just felt like state media promo, state media propaganda, not a segment worthy of airing on a major news broadcast. Right? Many
That felt like something like a local news station would, like when they used to do like, oh, this squirrel learned how to surf. Check out Crystal the squirrel. Like, that's felt like that.
and some noting that even Fox has more dignity than this. They're saying that CBS, they're using a news program to do corporate bidding and calling this a naked appeal for support from the White House for Paramount's bid for Warner Brothers Discovery. While we're not in their heads and we can't prove intent on why they got the knee pads out, this is a crucial point for CBS News right now. It's been the focus of tons of controversy lately, ever since the Paramount Skydance merger put David Ellison in charge and Barry Weiss became the new head of CBS News, right? People have viewed it as a more conservative outlet. Now it's revamping evening news with Tony DeCopel as the new anchor, and that's been off to a very rocky start. He only officially started on Monday, but even before then, he was irking people just by the way that he addressed viewers, talking about his goals for the show, saying,
The point is, on too many stories, the press has missed the story because we've taken into account the perspective of advocates and not the average American. Or we put too much weight in the analysis of academics or elites and not enough on you.
With many finding that troubling, saying that CBS News shouldn't be dismissing input from experts and just hearing the other side and showing them as, equal things. But with that, you had DeCopel actually fighting back against those comments on Instagram, right? When one person wrote, I grew up on Cronkite, too bad CBS has lost its Tiffany shine. DeCopel responded by saying, what did you love most about him? I can promise you we'll be more accountable and more transparent than Cronkite or anyone else of his era. Also, before his first show, CBS Evening News released new guidelines and promises to its viewers, and one of those was, we love America and we make no apologies for saying so. And adding, our foundational values of liberty, equality, and the rule of law make us the last best hope on earth. We aim to do our part every night. One way to think about our show is a daily conversation about where exactly we are as a country.
Oh, I can't believe a once respected news station is typing this. This is beyond licking boots. Like, this is like nose so far up your asshole. Like,
country and where we are going. And again, for many, that was a red flag, making it sound like a news network was pledging allegiance to the country. A notion that even more people find concerning because Donald Trump has been moving like he is America. Then also had a lot of people wondering who the hell's running the show. And, DeCopel made his official evening news debut this week. There was a major on-air blunder.
All right, to other news, as you just heard from Jill, well, to other news now, to Governor Walz. No, we're going to do Mark Kelly. First day, big problems here. Are we going to Kelly here, or are we going to go to Jonah Kaplan? We're doing.
oh my God. So, like, the image packages are set to a specific time that they have to, like, flip to them. They, like, match up with the teleprompter. And so he's not reading the teleprompter. He's looking at the images. I guess. I don't know. Maybe the teleprompter's not coming up. Who knows?
Mark Kelly.
While technical difficulties, they happen, many just thought that this moment, it kind of underscored the issues happening at CBS News right now. Variety even calling it an inauspicious sign of where CBS News is headed. But really where you're seeing the biggest concerns has to do with the change of content, the change of tone, and many saying it feels like this is really being built for an audience of one, and that being Donald Trump. To get in his good graces, to normalize his extremism, to be Trump propaganda light, maybe even work in a certain degree as an arm of the White House, which on that note, the White House Rapid Response account actually posted last night's Rubio segment in a positive light. And so also with that, for some of the MAGA crowd, this was an appealing pivot. Really, one of the biggest questions is this going to be a winning strategy for CBS News moving forward? And there, I'll say it kind of depends on the goals. But is the goal to increase viewership, get more ad dollars, get more money, right? Run a successful business? Or is it just having a thing to disseminate information, to push propaganda? And there, it kind of brings us back to Elon Musk buying Twitter. But is his goal there to run a business that actually makes a ton of money? Or is it about controlling the public square, controlling the dissemination of information, what's out there, what's not? Because that is its own kind of power. I would argue it's more important than money. The really how the systems work and are connected, especially with this administration, is you could have a loss here, but to switch it around to everyone, yeah, Jeff Bezos has the Washington Post, but also he has Amazon, also he has Blue Origin, there are government contracts. It feels like with these organizations and social networks getting gobbled up, there is just going to be an understandable distrust of information, whether it be from previously mainstream trusted sources like CBS News and the like. And then there's even more we've got to dive into, but first let me say, it is a new year. If you're still online without a VPN, it's basically like walking through an airport holding a...
This is the first time I've craved food in the last 2 days. And I want cookies.
Wallet open and saying, please behave, everyone. That's why today's sponsor, NordVPN, is a must-have, not a luxury. NordVPN encrypts everything you do online, so hackers, shady networks, and nosy data collectors get nothing. Also, the threat protection blocks shady links, malicious downloads, and trackers before they load, which means that those scam techs can't yank your bank info. And it's not just banking, it's email, travel booking, streaming, logging into anything. All locked behind next-generation encryption. Personally, I use NordVPN, especially on public Wi-Fi, airports, hotels, random cafes with routers older than my career. One click, unprotected. Plus, switching virtual locations is just stupid easy. Different libraries, different deals, same internet, just safer. And NordVPN has a strict no logs policy. They're not tracking you, storing you, or selling you. They protect you, period. And so if you're looking to get the best deal anywhere, it's through my link right now. A huge discount on a 2-year plan plus 4 bonus months free. Just scan that QR code on the screen or go to nordvpn.com/Phil. Again, that's nordvpn.com/Phil. Best deal, extra months, 0 risk. But then, to get back into the news, the US just seized a Russian-registered Venezuelan-linked oil tanker that it's been pursuing across the Atlantic for the past 2 weeks. But it's a tanker.
Oh my God. Are you kidding me? It's like he really wants a war with Putin right now. Like, does he think that's going to help anyone else? Like anyone? This is what our US tax dollars are going to. Starting wars with other countries and causing problems with other countries. And dumbass senators writing weak ass tweets. Like, that's what we pay for. And what do we get out of it? Well, we don't get healthcare. We don't get access to better foods at cheaper prices. We don't get affordability. We don't get help with rent. We don't get help with childcare. We don't get some kind of like at home, in what is it, Sweden or Switzerland? They pay parents to stay home and like $36,000 a year. Also somewhere in that like Nordic area, I believe like parents or family members, if you need like time off, especially for like childbirth, you get 2 to 3 years off. of work, paid. So you can just spend time with your family and be there for the first 3 years of your kid's life. Like, I think it is Switzerland that, like, gives everybody, like, a basic living income. The files must say a lot. Yeah, we all know that. The Epstein files absolutely say a lot. I think it's fair to say that the Epstein files have shown that Trump has been inappropriate with children. Very inappropriate, like raping them and watching their babies be murdered. But, like, I lost my train of thought. Yeah, we don't get anything. Oh, yeah, I think it's Switzerland, pays all of their citizens, maybe it's Sweden, one of the two S's, pays all of their citizens $36,000 a year. And then they can choose to work or go to school or whatever. Like, they give a basic income and they find that most people would actually rather work. They don't work as many hours. Like, you start at 9 and you finish at 9, or you finish at 5, not 5:01, not 5:30, no weekend hours. And that's the rest of the world. Meanwhile, we sit here and we think like, "Oh, America's the best and we deserve these dog shit tweets from our senators and wars with other countries." Yes, please, sir.
Tanker known as the Marinera, though when the chase began, it was called the Bella One. It appears that it's the only vessel owned by a company based in Turkey, which was also sanctioned by the United States Treasury. It appears that it's the only vessel owned by a company based in Turkey, which was also sanctioned by the United States Treasury Department back in 2024, with U.S. officials accusing the company of moving goods on behalf of the Quds Force, which is an elite wing within Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps. Though also, notably,
But he's like Turkey, Iran, like he's going after all of them.
the vessel is believed to have been transporting Venezuelan crude oil in the past. And with that, U.S. forces attempted to board the ship last month when it was in the Caribbean and believed to be heading toward Venezuela. And that being an effort to enforce Trump's total and complete blockade of all sanctioned oil tankers entering or leaving Venezuela. But the crew, they dramatically changed course. They sent out a distress signal and then they just went dark. But then 2 weeks later and thousands of miles away, they turned on their broadcast signal with a whole new name, re-registering as a Russian vessel, whereas before they were this stateless vessel flying under a false flag. And that's a very key thing here because, as one expert explained, once it's legitimately registered, it gets the protection of the flag. And dadding, it's not retroactive. You can't say it was stateless 2 weeks ago, so we're going to say it's stateless now. And with that, Russia made what was seen as an unusual move of allowing the tanker to get what has since been described as a temporary permit to sail under the Russian flag without an inspection or other formalities. And actually, several other sanctioned tankers have re-registered as Russian vessels in recent weeks as well. In fact, at least 18 oil tankers hit by U.S. sanctions have switched to a Russian registry, with many of them also having previously been sailing under a false flag.
Guys, it's always boats. Something's gonna happen with these boats.
But for now, right, the focus is on the Marinera that the U.S. has been pursuing for 2 weeks, even though it had never actually picked up any oil from Venezuela. And even though the Russian government made a formal diplomatic request that the U.S. stop its chase. And all the while, this tanker was believed to have been heading toward a city in northwestern Russia. And while today, as the tanker moved northeast between Iceland and the UK, the Kremlin reportedly dispatching a submarine and other naval vessels to escort the tanker. At the same time, the U.S. and the UK military scrambled aircraft in the area. You then had reports quickly emerging that American forces had begun an operation to seize the tanker. Russian state media publishing footage reportedly taken from on board the tanker and appearing to show a U.S. Coast Guard ship in the distance, as well as images purporting to show a U.S. helicopter flying near the tanker. And sure enough, you then had the U.S. European Command posting on X that the vessel was seized in the North Atlantic pursuant to a warrant issued by a U.S. federal court. And going on to say the seizure supports POTUS proclamation targeting sanctioned vessels that threaten the security and stability of the Western Hemisphere. And then Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth adding, the blockade of sanctioned and illicit Venezuelan oil remains in full effect anywhere in the world. And actually, to that point, the Coast Guard also intercepted another Venezuela-linked tanker today, this one in the Caribbean, although the attention really, it's been focused on the one registered in Russia, but especially as there have been fears of a Russia-United States standoff. So in the end, there were reportedly no Russian vessels in the vicinity of the tanker during the seizure, though I will say that also doesn't mean that there's not going to be fallout from this.
Listen, I know that if Israel has drones that can go after specific people in apartment buildings and can put bombs inside beepers, I think after seeing China's military parade, I think Trump needs to be more aware that he's playing with, like, just because we spend more money on our military stuff doesn't mean we spend good money on our military stuff. Like, New Vegas confirmed Fallout reference what? Because the end of the world? The end of the world's between China and the United States, or China and the United States, not China and Russia. Or did I miss it?
I mean, you've got the Russian Transport Ministry already issuing a statement accusing the United States of breaking the 1982 UN Convention of the Law of the Sea, saying no state has the right to use force against ships properly registered in the jurisdictions of other states. And you also had a senior Russian lawmaker from the country's ruling party arguing that the US's actions they equated to an act of outright piracy. But also another
Yeah.
big thing with everything we're talking about here is it may lead to more than just strong words from Russian ministries. It might sink any peace deal in Ukraine. And I
Like when like people in Yemen started commandeering ships to stop doing to stop them to getting to Israel, people called them terrorists and all kinds of other things. And also there's an ad coming, so feel free to subscribe if you don't want to see those ads. And if you don't want other people to see those ads, feel free to gift a sub. But like we called them terrorists and we blew them up. Like we sent drones after them and like that's not okay, but stealing an oil tanker halfway across the country is okay. Rules for thee and not for me, it always seems.
mention that because right now, European, Ukrainian, and American negotiators are in Paris trying to work out another deal, right? And the negotiators, which included figures like Jared Kushner, which I guess means you know Trump is serious, they were all worried about the same problem. How do they deter future Russian aggression? And for that, they want to implement multi-layered defense guarantees for Ukraine. This, including by providing weapons and training to Ukraine's troops, which is probably a given, but the real breakthrough was the promise for a supporting force that would give land, sea, and air support. Now, I will say no information about how big that force is supposed to be has been released publicly. The US and allies are also supposed to monitor and verify that ceasefires are being adhered to. That also won't mean American boots on the ground, right? Trump has ruled that out explicitly. But France and the UK have signed a declaration of intent to send troops to Ukraine as part of any official peace deal. Even Germany was keeping the possibility of boots on the ground open, with their chancellor saying Germany will continue to engage politically, financially, and also militarily. This could include, for example, deploying forces for Ukraine on neighboring NATO territory after a ceasefire. And for Ukraine, these security guarantees, they're a must-have for any peace, to the point they won't even consider a peace deal without them. Also, another must-have for any peace deal is that the US needs to actually be on board, and so far that does seem to be the case. Right, Special Envoy Steve Witkoff writing on X, we have made significant progress on several critical work streams, including our bilateral security agreement framework and a prosperity plan. And adding, we agree with the coalition that durable security guarantees and robust prosperity commitments are essential to a lasting peace in the Ukraine, and we will continue to work together on this effort. At the same time, you had Kushner saying this does not mean we will make peace, but peace would not be possible without the progress we made today. And he might be right that despite major headway on a common agreement being made yesterday, that peace still might not come. But at the end of the day, Russia has to agree, and boots on the ground, it just seems to be a line in the sand for them. So far, at least as I'm recording, they haven't commented on the new peace deal, but the US's actions, they do amount to a direct confrontation with Russia. And while there are still some unknowns here, you might expect a massive response, but so far, the Russian Foreign Ministry has just called on the US to ensure humane and dignified treatment of Russian citizens on board the tanker. And there's possibly two reasons for this. One is that it's Orthodox Christmas in Russia. So just like the US and many countries, things kind of completely shut down at this time of year. So, it is entirely possible we see some stronger language and response in the coming days. But also, you can't look at this without considering that ever since Trump got reelected, Russia has been trying to kind of not confront the US on really so many issues. And in some ways, it looks like it's working, as Trump has entertained Russian demands for peace in Ukraine. Though the biggest payoff might be coming soon after Trump wrote a massive anti-NATO piece on Truth Social. Right, a piece where he bashes members of the alliance and claims that the US props it up, before then adding, Russia and China have zero fear of NATO without the United States, and I doubt NATO would be there for us if we really needed them. A statement that, many people took as Trump threatening to leave NATO, which was then kind of contradicted in that post itself, because right after Trump added, we will always be there for NATO, even if they won't be there for us. So of course, then he made sure to end it by making it clear that he was behind the US version of America that Russia and China fear. But also, here's the thing, whatever Trump's writing online, you have this White House still making threats that if they follow through on it, it could very possibly lead to the end of NATO. Or with White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt continuing to insist yesterday and today that acquiring Greenland is a national security priority and that the use of military force remains an option. Now with that, you also have Secretary of State Marco Rubio recently telling lawmakers that these threats aren't serious and they're just about pressuring Denmark into selling Greenland. That's also not really reassuring, with experts arguing that the stakes are just too high to not take Trump Trump seriously, especially considering what he just did in Venezuela. Just like with what happened there, it doesn't really seem to be about drugs. It's not clear that the interest in Greenland is really about national security. Right? Greenland, this autonomous territory of Denmark, is strategically located and home to vast untapped mineral resources that much of the world is currently reliant on China for. And as far as security, the US already has a military base on the island, which supports missile warning and missile defense operations. And in fact, with some conditions, the agreement that allows the US to operate its base there also allows it to construct, install, maintain, and operate military bases across Greenland, house personnel, and control landings, takeoffs, anchorages, moorings, movements, and operation of ships, aircraft, and waterborne craft. Right? That's why you have experts saying the US has
Just got back, and really, are we still trying to take Greenland? Yes. Yes, yes. Yes, we are. Welcome back. I'm seeing if I can get some ramen. Not feeling the worst, but I feel like some soup would be really, really good. Oh, awesome. So I prefer my ramen mostly broth. Like, okay. I could demolish a bowl of chicken noodle soup right now. And
such a free
I like mostly broth. Like, I want like mostly broth. I don't know. I don't know what it is. It just broth makes me feel good.
hand in Greenland that it can pretty much do what it wants. And adding, I have a very hard time seeing that the US couldn't get pretty much everything it wanted if it just asked
Well, if we take it, I guess I can make my dream of being a Viking come true. Yeah. I mean, it'll probably lead to a world war. They like the white people islands way more than they like Venezuela.
nicely. And even when it comes to mineral resources, Greenlanders have said that they're open to doing business. Also with this, right, Trump's recent complaints that the island was covered in Russian and Chinese ships, it really doesn't appear to match reality. I mean, you've had European officials noting that while Russia and China have increased their activity in the region, most of that's elsewhere in the Arctic, with no current uptick in activity near Greenland. With the Danish foreign minister saying, the image that's being painted of Russian and Chinese ships right inside the Nuuk Fjord and massive Chinese investments being made is not correct, and adding, the situation was based on a misreading of what is up and what is down. Now, with all this, you've got Danish and Greenlandic officials reportedly hoping to meet with Marco Rubio to push back against Trump's flawed view of the security situation and ultimately ease
Good
tension. You've also
luck.
seen several European nations as well as Canada coming out with a joint statement showing their support for Denmark and Greenland, though notably avoiding explicit criticism of the US. And also, there's been a lot of discussion about what else might actually be done to stop the United States from doing kind of whatever it wants. So there, the answer may very well be not that much. But it's been said
Yeah, it's nothing because here's the thing. We've built ourselves up as like the protector of the free world and like the problem involvers. Like, there's no way after how much we've built ourselves up over the decades that the rest of the world is willing to stand up to us. And it's pretty pathetic because like I was talking about it with Hobby and I was like, name me another country that's gone into another country like the US has. Like, and I honestly couldn't think of one. I might be wrong, but like the war on terror was the United States. Persian Gulf, the United States. We didn't need to go into Vietnam. We did because the French asked for help. Korea, I don't know what was going on with Korea. I have a lack of memory in that. But like, what war since World War II? I mean, even if you want to go before World War II, like we invaded, what is it, Cuba? The Spanish-American War? And the Philippines? Like, I don't know of other countries, especially since like Britain stopped going places, that have done what we've done in other countries, that have gone and be like, no, we're going to spread democracy. But maybe I'm wrong.
that European countries could reconsider their support for U.S. military bases on their territory, possibly taking steps to limit access or increase costs. But, the problem there is that NATO and Europe, they still depend heavily on the United States for their own security. And similarly, it's been said that European countries could try to use trade or taxation policies to pressure the United States, at least in theory. But in practice, those actions could also undermine the alliance that they're meant to protect. And so ultimately, many of the options available to try and prevent the United States from taking action that would most likely destroy NATO, they would at the very least weaken NATO and maybe ultimately bring about its end as well. So it's actually been argued that there is a definite pathway toward a non-military US takeover of Greenland. Though if it did come down to military action, it also probably wouldn't face any resistance. Or even at a Danish politician who asked to stay anonymous telling Politico, it could be like 5 helicopters. He wouldn't need a lot of troops. There would be nothing they could do. You also had an associate professor of military operations at the Royal Danish Defense College further explaining, you could just simply put troops in the country and just say that it's American now. And adding, the United States military is capable of landing any number of forces on Greenland, either by air or by sea, and then claiming that it's American territory. And we talk about all of that not to normalize it, but to, note that while it still may be unlikely, not long ago, it felt like a complete impossibility. But that, my friends, is the end of today's Wednesday
No,
Philip
it's
DeFranco
never
show.
felt like an impossibility because Trump always likes to get his way. No one likes to tell him no. All right, let's watch something hopefully a little bit upbeat. It's been 5 years. Holy hell. Yeah, we were just talking about that earlier in the stream. I think Philip was covering it and how like Trump put on like the White House website that like it was a peaceful day, but it was also Democrat inspired riots and that like 0 police officers died and that just pure lies. But yes, it's been 5 years. Where did the time go, though? It went with Trump delaying court filings and cases for as long as humanly possible, while the Supreme Court also dragged their feet on saying whether or not a president has immunity, or if presidential immunity applies to A or B thing. And then it came down to him getting convicted as a 34-time felon, only to run into the start of his presidency where the judge said, shit, I can't sentence you. So that's kind of where the time went. A lot of it went to delaying that. So many remixes out of this. Why do we have to have a court jester as commander in chief? Because there's a lot of reasons, but the major one is that the Democrats didn't market a platform that their voters wanted. That's the biggest reason. The next reason would be that more people liked this guy than had a reason to vote for the Dems. That's the 2 biggest reasons. The news media has a lot to blame for the first round. They talked about him so much instead of other people that it kind of became all that people thought about it and heard, and then he ended up winning. People liked him. People didn't know what he did to Atlantic City. People still don't know what he did to Atlantic City. I know chat does. But like what he did to Atlantic City, what he did to his tenants in New York. People didn't know. People still don't know sometimes. And that's why we have a clown as commander in chief. Because we're in so much debt. We have so much debt. And we can't organize it in proper ways. And because nobody can agree or vote on anything, it's getting delayed. But the biggest reason I believe is because we're in so much debt. We're defaulting on things. And all the government is doing is saying, yeah, we'll increase our debt ceiling. That used to be a thing conservatives would run on. Be like, we got to bring the debt down. And now you don't hear that anymore. You only hear it during Democrat terms. He's in the same jail as Luigi Mangione. And apparently they've met. I'm like, oh, that's the buddy cop movie I need. Old Hispanic man who has excellent dance moves, teams up with a hot, young, vigilante with a back problem. Yeah, that's the buddy cop movie I need. Man, I thought they hate immigrants. Why are they trying to take over other countries? America first, I guess.
Nobody's going to fight the United States militarily over the future of Greenland.
See, it's that cockiness that's... When you get too cocky, That's when your downfall is happening, okay? You get too close to the sun with your ego, and then it'll all come tumbling, especially that 4'10" motherfucker. He's got a long way to fall. Opposition leader lady was cheering on the Venezuela tanker getting captured, was cheering on those boats getting exploded. She's pro-Israel. She wants to move the Venezuelan embassy to Israel. Like, it's wild. She's actually, I don't know why they gave her the Peace Prize, because she's actually, oh yeah, no, he's been doing that. They said he's been doing it for most of his life, that he's more than the recommended dosage of aspirin. And you know what? My grandmother would do that. She would have like 6 Tylenol, like, or aspirin a day, multiple times a day. That she'd ask me to bring it to her. And I don't think you're supposed to take 6. Going to, like, is this a real commercial? Because I'd believe it. I would absolutely believe that this would be a real thing they would post. Also, that guy is the QAnon shaman. He was arrested and convicted for January 6th. He was actually filmed in like a video saying, the interviewer was like, "Are you still a Trump supporter?" And he's like, "No." And then he was like, "Oh, you didn't hear about that?" And the guy was like, "What happened?" And he was like, "The Epstein files. They haven't been released. I know he's full of shit. I'm not going to get behind somebody that supports pedophiles." At least that's what he's saying in the video. I don't know if it's true or not. I'm going to just, relay that message from the video I saw of the interview. Oh, man. I could really see them doing that. Probably not as on the nose as that. They'd probably be like, "We're selling these commemorative January 6th plates." And then instead of like a printed image, it would be like gold etch, like gold filigree. And it would be like the different poses of like some of like, I don't know, of some of like the moments, but like it would probably be like, I don't know, I feel like they would be really choosy, but I could see them doing it. I really could. Okay, what are we? We're 19 hours into this and he's at 1,000 or 1,700,000. He's almost at 2 million views. And then on top of that, he's also got the show live, which I have no idea how many. I know he was the top rated. Wow. Won't bring him back. They will not uncancel him because Barry Weiss is in charge. And I think he knows that, and I think that's why he's going harder and harder every day. And I'd like to I want to see more of that energy for sure in 2026. But I think he will definitely have a place to go. Oh God. Sorry, I'm not feeling like the best, but I'm also. Oh, here's that mayor. I want to hear speak.
We collectively are going to.
My British friends in the Discord were telling me about this. All right, my ramen's about to be ready, so throw on some lo-fi and I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. Bumped the door with it on my way in and I spilled like half of it. This is why I don't eat out anymore. Why? Did I miss something? Is your tummy hurting? I'm having ramen. Hi. Bobby!
You gotta be quicker than that.
Hobby husband is too slow.
I just read your text. I'm like, I don't know if I want to out him like that. All right. I bumped the door as I was coming in and I lost like a quarter of the soup. Oh, the McRib ingredients? Yeah. I'm not surprised. Like, I don't know. There's a lot of gross stuff in hot dogs and people still eat those. But, oh, this is good. But, I think when you call something a specific thing, it should have that meat in it. It's kind of like when people found that there was like sawdust in Taco Bell. Oh.
We're going to do everything possible to get to the bottom of this, to get justice, and to make sure that there is an investigation that is conducted in full. But what we do know
Thank you.
is that a 37-year-old woman is dead and that she was shot by ICE. We've dreaded this moment since the early stages of this ICE presence in Minneapolis. Not only is this a concern that we've had internally, we've been talking about it. They are not here.
You should out him. It was bad. I am going to make you have a bean because I had to change it. I mean, I'm not going to read it. I don't want. Okay.
Most of you came here for one thing.
Hobby husband would like you to eat the bean.
Yeah, I'm not going to out him. I'm sorry. I'll eat a bean for him. Okay, let me do good bean, bad bean. Get some points. All right. Start predict. Is it a good bean or bad bean? You guys have 1 minute while I try to get a bean out. And then we'll eat the bean. There's 2. Do you want what happened? I'm not telling you. Do I eat the possible this one? Which could be either wet dog or top banana. There's a prediction down in the yeah, there you go. Or this one, which could be barf. One hobby. Only like a couple seconds left on the clock for the prediction. Barf. Okay. Ready? Peach is what it's supposed to be if it's a good bean. It's not peach. Yeah, it's barf. Oh, after having that all day, make me suffer again? Hell yeah.
Here to cause safety in this city. What they are doing is not to provide safety in America. What they are doing is causing chaos and distrust. They're ripping families apart. They're sowing chaos on our streets. And in this case, quite literally killing people. So they are already trying to spin this as an action of self-defense. Having seen the video of myself, I want to tell everybody directly, that is bullshit.
Oh.
This was an agent recklessly using power that resulted in somebody dying, getting killed. As soon as it happened and we learned of the incident, we had several priorities. The first, of course, was to get the victim to the hospital and to get care as soon as possible. To the family, I'm so deeply sorry. There's nothing that I can say right now that's going to make you or your relatives or the friends of the victim feel any better. There were, I believe, 2 Minneapolis police officers that responded and were in the ambulance on the way to the hospital. The second was to get ICE off of the scene. There were dozens, if not hundreds, of ICE and federal officers that were there at the time. Having them there was only causing more chaos. Having them there was only making a difficult situation even more problematic, and one that, yes, they created themselves. There's little I can say, again, that'll make this situation better, but I do have a message for our community, for our city, and I have a message for ICE. To ICE, get the fuck out of Minneapolis. We do not want you here. Your stated reason for being in this city is to create some kind of safety, and you are doing exactly the opposite. People are being hurt. Families are being ripped apart. Long-term Minneapolis residents that have contributed so greatly to our city, to our culture, to our economy are being terrorized, and now somebody is dead. That's on you. And it's also on you to leave. It's on you to make sure that further damage, further loss of life and injury is not done. We're going to be working towards justice as quickly as we possibly can right now, and justice is what we've all got to get. Next, a message to our community. Look, we all know that the agenda of this Trump administration is to create chaos. Let us respond right now with our best versions of self. This is a moment where all of us,
break out the frog costumes,
in Minneapolis and beyond, we can rise to the occasion. We can show them who we are. We can show them the kind of courage, bravery, love, and compassion that makes Minneapolis, Minneapolis, and that makes America, America. We are better than a bunch of ICE agents being deployed to cities around the country and ripping apart families and communities. We're better than that. And so we are going to meet that hate with love. We are going to meet that despair with hope. We are going to meet that injustice with constitutional justice ourselves. And we're going to make sure that in this very difficult moment, we do not take the bait that these ICE agents are trying to create and that the federal government, to be clear, wants. They want us to respond in a way that creates a military occupation in our city. They want an excuse to come in and show the kind of force that will create more chaos and more despair. Let's not let them. Let's rise to this occasion. Let's show them something far more beautiful than the kind of division that they're trying to stoke. Let's show them unity of purpose, of love, and the courage of our conviction. Our conviction, to be clear, is rock solid, and it is for our neighbors, all of our neighbors. It's for people who have lived here for 80 years. It is for new immigrants who have made this city a better place. That's the kind of love that we're going to show up with right now. If you're angry, I get it. I am too. If you're feeling that kind of despair, it's understandable. Let's show them who we can be. Let's show up with peace. To march, to protest, to hug one another, to love all the way with peace. Do not give them what they want. Finally, you know, we've got a lot of work that needs to happen right now to make sure that, first, of course, the scene was secured as much as possible, that we were able to get the victim, now deceased, to the hospital. We've got a lot of work to do in the coming days. I want to thank our city enterprise for the work that they have done, but more importantly, what they're about to do, because this is going to be heavy and our city has been through a lot. We also know that we're prepared to do right for people. Among them is our chief of police. I'll invite him up.
My name is Brian O'Hara, B-R-I-A-N-O''H-A-R-A. I am the Minneapolis Police Chief. This morning, Minneapolis police officers received a report of federal law enforcement being involved in a deadly force incident, meaning shots had been fired. Minneapolis police officers responded to the scene. We arrived and found a woman with a gunshot wound to the head. Life-saving measures were performed at the scene, including CPR. The woman was transported to Hennepin County Medical Center, where she has since been pronounced deceased. The preliminary information that we have indicates that this woman was in her vehicle and was blocking the roadway on Portland Avenue, midway between 33rd Street and 34th Street in the city. At some point, a federal law enforcement officer approached her on foot, and the vehicle began to drive off. At least 2 shots were fired. The vehicle then crashed on the side of the roadway. Minneapolis police officers secured the crime scene and assisted in trying to preserve the evidence that is there. We have since turned over the scene both to the Federal Bureau of Investigation as well as the Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension, which will be conducting an investigation into this use of deadly force. I want to thank the mayor, city council president, other members of the city council, state legislators that were on the scene. This has been a very difficult time for everyone in the city. And this is obviously a very, very tragic situation where a woman has lost her life. That being said, in addition to this tragedy, which unfortunately we did predict, we were seriously concerned about further escalation from the scene. And I want to thank the elected officials that came themselves to help us prevent that from happening, as well as the individuals on that scene that remained peaceful and that abided by law enforcement instructions so that we could preserve that scene and ensure that a full and transparent investigation can take place. That being said, I just echo the mayor's comments that we ask that the community continue to call for peace. We understand people are going to be upset about what happened, and people are going to want to exercise their First Amendment rights. But please do so safely and lawfully to ensure that we do not have any further tragedy in this city or destruction. Thank you.
That's really unfortunate, but also something we've like, it's almost like so during the Revolutionary War there was like the Boston Massacre where like it was like 5 to 10 people were killed. And it kind of really was like final sparks to revolution. All this stuff was compounding and compounding, compounding over decades. Then finally it got to, things like the Boston Massacre, and it just powder keg finally exploded, and it led to, Lexington and Concord. And I feel like it's similar vibes. I'm not saying 1-to-1.
Michelle, your thoughts?
Well, I actually spoke to Aiden earlier, and it's really hard to watch this, Nicole. It's hard on lots of levels, but I grew up in Minneapolis. I grew up 14 blocks south of where this happened. And so this is a major thoroughfare that runs north-south in Minneapolis. It's the road my parents took to and from work every day. And to know that people in that community are going to be processing this for a long time, there will be real and legitimate questions about DHS and the role that the ICE agents, the Border Patrol agents are playing in that community. One of the things that Aiden mentioned earlier speaks to the lack of coordination. When the ambulance arrived and the fire trucks arrived after this car crashed, the ICE vehicles, he told me, did not move. They were not able to get close to the vehicle. Apparently, she had to be pulled out of the vehicle and walk to the ambulance down on 33rd Street, half a block from where this happened, because the local vehicles couldn't even get through ICE. That speaks to the lack of coordination that the Mayor Jacob Frey and that Governor Tim Walz has been talking about. All these people in this city, all these agents in this city, not working with local law enforcement, not coordinating with them, and people who live in the community feel like they're living under an occupation. Aiden said that he was called to the window because he heard the horns and the whistles. A lot of the people that are involved in doing this work and letting people know that ICE is in the community, it's interesting. I've heard that many of them are clerics, as you've seen, but some of them are retired lawyers. Some of the
Clerics. I love that. I like that. I know, like, she's talking about, like, church people, but I love that it's like the clerics have entered the chat. Like, very D&D-esque. Like, I'm here.
Them are people who are actually on the right, who are Republicans, who don't like the way that this is playing out in their city. And so they're trying to monitor ICE to make sure that they're actually following the rules. And I am betting that their numbers will grow because ICE has not slowed down what they're doing. There are 10 ICE vehicles that were at Roosevelt High School on the east side of the city this afternoon.
Which domain, cleric? I think it depends on the church. Also, I just realized I put on subscriber only mode.
Christ, there's a boomer around here.
Well, I hit the wrong button. Like, why is chat so quiet? There we go. You guys can chat again. I'm sorry. I'm the worst.
At another school called Marcy, closer to the University of Minnesota, reportedly this afternoon. So instead of stopping what they're doing, they're continuing with what they're calling Metro Surge, and they're still making people in Minneapolis feel like they're living in an occupied space.
Michelle, I hadn't heard your reporting about an ambulance not able to get to.
I just figured I was fired out loud. No. When I went to do so the button on the app for subscriber only mode is a star. The button for predictions is like a little crystal ball with a star. She was done with her shit. Yeah, like I would leave myself in here trapped with only blue. Come on, guys.
The vehicle in which
Hi, Athena.
Renee Colgood was killed. Is there any reporting, anything else you can tell us about whether or not that could have made any difference in her losing her life today?
I'm going to be very careful about that. That's something that I was told by people who lived on the street and witnessed this, that when the ambulance and the fire truck came, that they were not able to get through this, when he described the ICE vehicles that were parked on the street. So I don't know if it would make a difference. I was not there on the ground.
Saying you would never not be driving. They're usually lurking. Probably typing at, stop signs and red lights.
It's told that by residents who live there in that block along 34th and Portland.
Seems like added trauma for those residents. Jacob Soboroff, this has a lot of echoes to what you brought us from the other cities where you've reported on ICE agents. notable to me that among the ICE and the CBP jackets, I think I saw FBI Violent Crime Task Force jackets. The New York Times is reporting today about how depleted the FBI's workforce is. And you saw there at least an individual wearing a jacket from the FBI Violent Crime Task Force today. What do you make of this block in this city and this ICE operation?
Well, it just actually calls to mind the first report I did for
Hey,
you.
that's the guy that was in at the LA riots. 5 miles per hour on a 5 miles per hour on the freeway right now. Oh, that sucks.
From Charlotte, when I was there on that day, where they were bringing actually detained protesters to the FBI building in Charlotte after picking them up after they allegedly interfered with law enforcement operations, smashed a window, pulled one of these ice washers out of a vehicle in North Carolina. So I hadn't thought about it until just now, but this is a scene, some version of this scene, even I have seen play out on the streets of the United States myself. I thought Alex's report and your conversation with him as well at the top of this hour raised some really good questions. So I just, in full transparency to our viewers, texted Tricia McLaughlin, the spokesperson for the Department of Homeland Security, and asked some of those questions myself. Is the agent still on duty who fired this weapon from in front of that vehicle? Who were the agents involved in the use of force? Where were they from? Like, where in the United States were they from? Are they from Minneapolis? Are they local agents? When did they get there? Were they Border Patrol agents? Were they ICE? Were they HSI? We don't know because they don't wear these things clearly marked on their vests. It's part of the reason it's so intimidating to people on the streets. It's part of the reason people like Renee Nicole Good go out in the first place, to warn their neighbors about unknown law enforcement officers from who knows where in the country rolling up on your block in Minneapolis to conduct, I guess, ostensibly the largest mass deportation effort in American history. What actually was the quote-unquote targeted enforcement operation that was happening on this street? Was there someone, a so-called worst of the worst criminal that they were going after? And if so, who was it?
Glad he's asking these questions.
All these questions haven't been answered yet, but we have been told that Renee Nicole Good was allegedly, paraphrasing, potentially a domestic terrorist.
Eddie.
You know, I'm just trying to wrap my mind around it, Nicole. There's so much death, so much ugliness. We're 7 days into 2026. We've been talking about the U.S. and Venezuela, talking about so much death, so much. And one wonders, what are the moral resources we have as a nation to get to the other side of this? Because what I do know is that ICE, with the one big beautiful bill, will become the largest federal law enforcement agency we have. We do know that $100 million will be invested in a recruitment surge in their targeting gun shows and military fans as they expand ICE. And so I'm just sitting here trying to wrap my mind around, what does Imago Dei mean? Being in the image of God. What does that mean in real terms, in concrete terms? And I'm trying to figure out, how does one answer the question, where is God, in relation to the other question that that woman asked as she witnessed what she witnessed: what have you done? What the F have you done? And so I'm just kind of sitting in the muck and trying to figure out, as you guys do the reporting and we talk about the politics, what do we do with all of this? Because it's affecting the soul of each of us, it seems to me. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I think if it didn't, then they'd have already won. If it loses its ability to affect us, if we don't go home thinking, you know, did Renee Nicole Good have plans for later in the day? Did she think she'd be home? You know, we don't know about her family, but did she have any idea that by driving down the street and doing whatever she did to try to warn the people that lived there, Aiden said it was a largely immigrant community, that she wouldn't come home alive
You talked earlier about, and the professor's remarks make me think of your idea of rehumanization. And as we learn about who Renee Nicole Good was, thinking about what she was out there, according to her mother, to do reminds me of the other people that we've talked about over the last many months since this second Trump administration has come into office. Alejandro Barranco, the landscaper, who was taken as he cut bushes in Santa Ana, and his 3 Marine Corps sons were outraged. One of them said if he had done that, what those agents did to their father in the Marine Corps, they would have been tried for a war crime. He would have been tried for a war crime. I'm thinking about Nori Santai Ramos, who was picked up from the Miguel Contreras Learning Complex, not from school, but from going to the immigration check-in with her mother, Estela, who died once they got to Guatemala because allegedly the ICE agents took her medication away when she was detained before they deported her. Ani Lucia Lopez Beloza, who was coming back from Babson to go visit her mom and dad in Texas on Thanksgiving break, but then was picked up and deported to Honduras. Or Maricela, the mother we talked about in the last hour, on the street in Chicago, who just wanted to make a stew for her daughter and was taken by agents that looked just like the ones in the video that we saw today. And so when we talk about the humanity behind all of this, there are human beings on the streets like Renee Nicole Good because of people like those people that I just named, and the decency and the compassion and the care for our fellow humans to look out for one another, and the realization that at the end of the day, and this is the journalist in me saying this, it's not the worst of the worst. It's not even close to the worst of the worst that this administration is going after. It's what they promised. It's what they said they were going to do. But there was never a way that this was going to be the plan, and we knew it from the day they held up those signs at the convention that said mass deportation. Now this was always going to be the consequence. And it turns out it's not just family separation of immigrant communities. Now it's family separation of families like ICE watchers, like Renee Nicole Good, who are out there. They will never have their daughter again. Family separation of American families at the hands of this administration for people that are trying to stand up. And if the facts bear out, as her mother says, we're trying to help other people in our community.
God damn. God damn. I'm glad the like popping the fuck off about.
Good afternoon. Today I'm joined by Department of Public Safety Commissioner Bob Jacobson, Colonel Schaefer of the Minnesota National Guard, and Colonel Bogojevic of the Minnesota State Patrol. This morning we learned that an ICE officer shot and killed someone in Minneapolis. My deepest condolences to the family, to the loved ones who had to learn about this tragic event on national television. We've been warning for weeks that the Trump administration's dangerous, sensationalized operations are a threat to our public safety, that someone was going to get hurt. Just yesterday, I said exactly that. What we're seeing is the consequences of governance designed to generate fear, headlines, and conflict. It's governing by reality TV, and today that recklessness cost someone their life. I've reached out to Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem, and I'm waiting to hear back. Let me be clear, Donald Trump and his administration may not care much about Minnesota. That's been pretty evident, but we love this state. We won't let them tear us apart. We'll not turn against each other. To Minnesotans, I say this: I feel your anger. I'm angry. They want a show. We can't give it to them. We cannot. If you protest and express your First Amendment rights, please do so peacefully, as you always do. We can't give them what they want. The hearts and minds of the people in this state are on our side. To Americans, I ask you this: please stand with Minneapolis. To Minnesotans, know that our administration is going to stop at nothing to seek accountability and justice. The State Bureau of Criminal Apprehension are working on the investigation. We have activated the State Emergency Operations Center. State Patrol and Minnesota National Guard leadership is connected with the Minneapolis Police Department, the St. Paul Police Department, Hennepin County Sheriff's Office, the DNR, and Minnesota's Homeland Security and Emergency Management. We have activated dozens of members of the State Patrol's mobile response team. And from here on, I have a very simple message. We do not need any further help from the federal government. To Donald Trump and Kristi Noem, you've done enough. There's nothing more important than Minnesotan safety. I've issued a warning order to prepare the Minnesota National Guard. We have soldiers in training and prepared to be deployed if necessary. I remind you, a warning order is a heads up for folks. And these National Guard troops...
Wait, what?
There's nothing more important than Minnesotan safety. I've issued a warning order to prepare the Minnesota National Guard. We have soldiers in training and prepared to be deployed if necessary. I remind you, a warning order is a heads up for folks. And these National Guard troops are our National Guard troops. They're teachers in your community, they're business owners, they're construction professionals. They are Minnesotans. Minnesota will not allow our community to be used as a prop in a national political fight. We will not take the bait. We will continue to update you, Minnesota, as we get more information. Now I'd like to turn it over to Commissioner Bob Jacobson of the Minnesota Department of Public Safety.
So it sounds like he's readying the National Guard for protecting Minnesotans from ICE.
Safety.
Thank you, Governor. As the Governor mentioned, my name is Bob Jacobson. It is my honor to serve as the Commissioner of the Minnesota Department of Public Safety. First of all, I want to acknowledge the reason that we are all here. The loss of life is not anything anyone would ever want. We fully expect that the community will want to peacefully demonstrate their anger or frustration. Minnesota residents and visitors have the right to peacefully demonstrate. We recognize that demonstrations are often driven by strong emotions, beliefs, and certainly a desire to be heard. Our role is to help ensure everyone can express themselves without anyone getting hurt. The Minnesota Department of Public Safety's role through the Minnesota State Patrol is to ensure safety, protect constitutional rights, keep roads accessible, and above all, to prevent harm. Our top priority is public safety. Our focus is keeping demonstrators, community members, drivers, and law enforcement safe, especially during moments of heightened tension or uncertainty. Demonstrations must remain safe and lawful, particularly around roadways. We will join with our partners to support safety while respecting the right to protest. With that in mind, I'd like to share a few safe and lawful ways to demonstrate. Minnesotans can safely and legally express their views in many ways, including getting together peacefully with others in public spaces, marching or walking, not on roadways, making your voice heard through chants, speeches, and displaying signs, being present in public areas where pedestrians are allowed, gathering in designated or permitted areas, and these actions will allow people to express themselves while protecting the safety of
Or like a public park. People would gather a lot at a public park.
everyone involved. Unsafe or illegal actions could result in fines or arrests. Certain behaviors create serious hazards that threaten public safety, disrupt emergency services, or put people at risk. These actions could result in fines or arrest. Demonstrating on or entering a freeway on foot, walking on highways, throwing objects, starting or setting fires, damaging property or graffiti, using illegal fireworks, displaying or using illegal weapons, reckless or dangerous driving, especially near pedestrians, and certainly assaultive, aggressive, or riotous behavior toward anyone. We all want definitive answers to what happened today. Our Bureau of Criminal Apprehension is working in conjunction with the FBI to investigate this morning's shooting. As you know, we don't comment on active investigations, but also keep in mind that this is an investigation is also in its infancy. So any speculation about what had happened would be just that. And we will not engage in speculation. With that, I will turn it back over to the governor. Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner.
We'd be glad to take any questions. Yeah, and I can let General Schaefer talk about this. It so happens it's a training weekend. We've got about 7,500 troops in training at our sites, training sites across the state. What it is, and in the National Guard, you give a warning order, which is a heads up of something could be coming. That just allows people to think about what they would need, what it would mean to mobilize, what it would mean to put them in. And I could let the general talk a little bit about this. Obviously, since the summer of 2020, we had a lot of work done on teams being ready to make sure that civil unrest. And what that means, and I think Commissioner Jacobson was very clear, and I want Minnesotans to hear this from me, the desire to get out and protest and to speak up to this administration of how wrong this is, that is a patriotic duty at this point in time, but it needs to be done safely. And I think the commissioner simply just laid out some of those parameters. We can do that. This is the peaceful resistance that we need. Simon, you want to say a few things about what that means to have them on the ready?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Governor. So for the military, Minnesota National Guard is comprised of 13,000 soldiers and airmen. We live all across and work throughout Minnesota. A warning order is just an initial step to increase your preparations. The Minnesota Guard is always prepared to respond and support state agencies and the citizens of Minnesota. So what that means for us today is just some additional checks on equipment that is ready at all times, and maybe some additional phone calls to service members who might be activated, but no activations. We are embedded with our state agencies here at the Operations Center to just continue parallel planning in the event that we are needed to support.
And I would make note, Mary, and to Minnesotans on this about the National Guard, they're there to protect you and protect your constitutional rights. These are our neighbors. They don't wear masks. They don't bust in from somewhere else. They're not here to cause hassles to you or what we saw today, the tragedy. Having them at the ready to make sure, because when we see these types of things happen, and we saw it after the murder of George Floyd, there's folks that want to cause chaos. There's the disruptors in it. And while the vast majority of those protests were peaceful expressions of their First Amendment rights, there were those that destroyed property and put people at risk. The National Guard is there to make sure that peaceful protests are able to be done and that those that want to do the destruction are stopped from doing that. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, and I think apparently by a federal agent, not by Minnesotans who were there to express their First Amendment rights. I think we've seen this to have folks ready. The gatherings that were down there today, I think this shocked everyone. People showed up as they should. There's people putting flowers down on a memorial. There's people expressing their anger. It's just as these situations develop, we decide when we need to move these people out. And I think the local reporters know well on this, both unfortunately and for us, the upside of this is that we're very good and we've had practice at this. And I just want to, again, implore Minnesotans, I am not telling you not to express your anger or your frustrations or the outrage that we have. Look, this was totally predictable, as I said it yesterday, and it was totally.
Why did it just cut?
Reporters know well on this, both unfortunately and for us, the upside of this is that we're very good and we've had practice at this. And I just want to, again, implore Minnesotans, I am not telling you not to express your anger or your frustrations or the outrage that we have. Look, this was totally predictable, as I said it yesterday, and it was totally avoidable. And I just want to remind you, too, that local law enforcement, we get no coordination. They don't tell us they're coming. They don't say why they're sending the largest deployment in American history.
Likely cut due to bad audio in the question answer. Maybe, yeah, the camera angle changed too, and the mic.
Minneapolis, they're not making us any safer.
Which is a weird
we don't
shop,
have
you know,
any of
that
that
usually.
coordination. They should be talking to us when we do these things. Let us know. We're going to be down here. This is going to happen. We don't have that. So when you see local law enforcement or state patrol,
there,
or if
okay, I see what they did. They queued up another camera and fed in wrong. Because they were planning on showing this while he was talking and doing something exactly like this. They cut, and then they jump back to another camera.
would take the National Guard. We're there responding to the chaos they've created too, but our role is to make sure that we're protecting Minnesotans so that something like this doesn't happen. I have not. The question was, have I spoken to the individual's family? No, we do not have a definitive ID on this individual. And I look, I'm going to note to all of you, I think it's really important, and the professionals do this, and they train me to do this. This is an open investigation. You need to be very careful about it. I know that many of you, myself included, have seen a very difficult video to watch, one where there's a family member watched their family member be shot and killed in front of them. It's beyond me that apparently from the federal government, from the Homeland Security Director herself, has already determined who this person was, what their motive was, and they hadn't even been taken out of the vehicle. We're not living in a normal world. And so, no, I have not. And I want to be very careful because I know how painful this is. I know how painful it is right now. I'm saying person and all that. This is a human being. This very well is an individual's child, a parent, and we don't know that yet. So, no, I have not. But once we do, we will. So, yes. Colonel, would you like to do that?
I couldn't hear any of it.
Colonel?
They did not mic anything up.
So the question was, how many State Patrol troopers have been deployed to the city of Minneapolis? Right now, we don't talk typical numbers because that is considered security information. We do have a specialized team that does deal with crowd control, and so they have been deployed. But again, they are from all over the state of Minnesota, so they will come in tiers to the state. No, it was in response to this event.
I'm sorry. What was it?
I was like, they're having problems too.
Well, I said this yesterday. We've never been at war with our federal government. I think in this case that the National Guard is their main mission. They have a dual mission. There's the federal mission when they're under Title 10 orders, and then they're under Title 32 orders. In this warning order, there's nothing officially been done yet. If I am to activate them as the Commander-in-Chief of the Minnesota National Guard, I will issue the executive order to the Minnesota National Guard, and then they will be put in state duty status. And as you've seen over the last few years, that could be flood prevention, that could be after a wind-blowing storm up in the north, up in Bemidji, or it could be COVID or George Floyd response. In this case, again, it doesn't necessarily change the mission. They're there to...
So him issuing the warning, if I understand it correctly, is him basically letting everybody who's in the National Guard know, like, look, figure out your plans.
protect Minnesotans. They're there to serve Minnesotans. I think the thing that is so challenging in the moment we're in is we don't see a desire to work with us on public safety. We hear a demonization of our state. We see people coming in who don't know our community, and we see this massive display for the TVs that we're trying to understand how is this coordinated. And some of you watch the videos on there, total chaos. And look, I have very limited work in this is the training in the National Guard, but I've had a lot of training now to watch how our professionals operate. After this person was shot, federal agents milling around, touching the vehicle at a crime scene and things. I don't know what to tell you, and I don't quite know how to respond to the question other than my primary responsibility as governor is the protection of the people of Minnesota. And you can be assured, whether it's the State Patrol or whether it's the National Guard, their deployment is there to protect.
Maggie Vespa is back with us now on the ground there in Minneapolis. As Maggie, we are learning more now about the woman who was killed in Minneapolis today.
Yeah, Hallie, that's right. The Minneapolis Star-Tribune identifying her as Renee Nicole Good, 37 years old, according to multiple U.S. Officials and lawmakers, that she was a U.S. citizen. And local officials here saying they think this is important, that she was absolutely not the target of ICE operations here in the area. People have been chanting her name in this crowd behind me. You saw this protest here in the last hour. It's grown significantly since then. You can see her there, her mother telling the Star-Tribune that, in her words, it was so stupid, the circumstances in which she was killed, and that, quote, her daughter was probably terrified. Her name, again, ringing through this crowd.
I hope the family sues. I really hope the family sues.
As people kind of circulate the video, talk about the video, check with each other on what did you see in the video. We've been asking people in this crowd, what did you see when you saw the video? And the incredibly consistent through line is that no one that we've spoken to agrees with the Trump administration's characterization of what they say happened here earlier today. We're at the intersection where this shooting took place. The Trump administration, of course, saying that ICE officer was firing in self-defense. As we now know, Renee Good drove toward him. People out here say they don't see someone trying to hit an ICE officer with their car. They see, we had multiple people tell us this, they believe they saw someone trying to get away, someone trying to steer away from the officer and flee the scene as multiple officers surrounded her car, the one who eventually fired stepping in front of it, which you can see in the vehicle. So a lot of anger at ICE in this crowd, and a lot of, again, people just learning in real time about the woman.
If there's any state that knows how to defrost, Minnesota.
Who was now killed here today, and obviously will be a focal point on top of everyone's mind here as this historic DHS ICE operation continues to unfold in this city that now truly, Hallie, feels under siege, I can tell you.
We thank you for watching, and
Point
remember,
blank range, man. That's so fucked. That is so fucked up. This is Fox 9 Minneapolis, local news station. Go. Ridiculous. No one should have died over this. Timmy, the says, better quit running his mouth. I don't know who. These protesters are all getting paid overtime. Protesters are all getting paid overtime? People are stupid for all to see. Sanctuary city mayors encouraging mobs to interfere with agents serving a warrant. None of this would be happening if Biden had not opened up. Oh my God, this is Fed posting. Do something. Amalia. This must stop now. Not one more victim. Maybe Trump does suck. Maybe most of the country and the world are right about him. I am seeing things differently now. This reads as sarcasm. That's a huge crowd. That's sad. We're on watch. You guys hear he fixed a road? He there was like this bump that I guess people, like, I think it's the Washington Bridge, for riding their bike. Like too steep and people get hurt. People were complaining about it before he was even mayor, and he said, like, yeah, I'll fix this when I'm mayor, and he did it. Have audio for this?
It's my first time here in this room for a press conference as well. So, good afternoon, my friends. It is a privilege to be gathered here today in a building that belongs to the people of New York, but has too long been withheld from the people of New York. There is a reason that we are here in this room. For generations, the Blue Room has been reserved only for traditional press. But this administration is not traditional, and the way we reach New Yorkers cannot be either. You are newsmakers. You are trusted voices in communities across every borough in our city, across races, religions, cultures. And as I look out onto this room, less than 1 week since I was sworn in as the mayor of New York City, and joined by tens of thousands at our inauguration here at City Hall and in the block party that we had and the block stretching beyond, I see faces now of New Yorkers that so many in this city turn to and trust, not just during the work of the campaign or the transition, but also during the work of governing. And when those in this city want to make sense of this city, when they want to feel the solidarity that sometimes feels absent in this city, when they want to figure out where to get some good momos in this city, when they want to understand how and if government works and who it's meant to serve, or whether they want to get involved and hold those in power accountable, they turn to you. They turn to you, and they do so because many of these New Yorkers.
I used an arrow of roaring thunder to throw the phase spider monarch into the bottomless pit. Okay, that's genius. That's absolute genius. I got a trophy on the PlayStation for it. Yeah, it's for like killing the spider before she like hatches any eggs, right?
Have not felt the presence of government in their own lives or in their own communities for all that long. They don't know what it looks like when government makes a positive difference in their lives, when government fills their days with dignity. These are tenants and young people, immigrants and trans New Yorkers, people who speak one language with their parents and another with their friends. As we transform how City Hall serves the people.
Poisoner's Row, but there's a quick win. Maybe you'll see it in the Underdark. Because remember, that's what the spider pit leads out, is where the Minotaurs are in the Underdark.
We want to also transform how it speaks to the people too. Not just with a newfound empathy and interest in everyday people's lives and struggles, but also with a new approach to communicating that speaks to New Yorkers where they are, through the people.
It wasn't the green pit? Oh no.
They start and end their days with. Here's the truth. We are going to have a lot to share. Because already, not even 1 week into this position, we are taking real steps forward in our agenda of affordability. And while I am so proud of the work that we have done and the work that we will continue to do, the progress we deliver will be wasted if New Yorkers do not know how their lives can be improved and are unaware of the resources they can now turn to. So I want to talk to you now, and I will try to run through this quickly, about some of what we've already done and how it will impact New Yorkers. But before I walk you through it, I do want to ask you all a few questions. Could you raise your hand if you have ever been charged for something you didn't really agree to? A free trial that quietly became a bill? A hidden fee on your airfare or a doctor's visit? A gym subscription that was impossible to cancel? Now, could you raise your hand if you ever paid more in rent while your apartment got worse? Broken heat, leaks, unsafe conditions, or been hit with extra fees just to apply, move in, or pay your rent. And now raise your hand if you've ever felt like City Hall or government in general doesn't really listen to people like you. Maybe you, if you needed some help, but hit a wall of paperwork. Maybe if you reached out to your representative, but you never heard back. Maybe you watched decisions get made without your community in the room or even being thought of. Or maybe you voted or even volunteered and never saw the change that you had hoped for be delivered. Now, I would bet that seeing this many hands in the room at each one of these questions is not a surprise to any of you. These all feel like near universal realities for so many who call this city home. It's something that we've become accustomed to, almost. But that is also what happens when systems are built to be confusing, to be unaccountable, to be disconnected from the people that they're supposed to serve. What we are doing differently in my administration and what we have already delivered in the past 6 days since I was sworn in as the mayor of this incredible city is about changing that. So first, we've stood up for tenants by revitalizing the mayor's office to protect tenants, announcing rental ripoff hearings across all 5 boroughs, and announced a new commissioner of the Department of Housing Preservation.
So the rental hearings, they're going to be like a town hall style where tenants will come in and voice their concerns with their apartment. And it's going to happen all over the 5 boroughs. Oh my God, I would love to be there. I hope they film it. I hope they live stream it. Oh my God, I get the fly on the wall. Oh man, I want to see these landlords get fucking trashed.
And development, named Dina Levy, who has spent decades fighting fiercely on tenants' behalf. Second, we are going after fees and deceitful practices that drain New Yorkers' bank accounts. I am talking about the junk fees that add $20 to your gym membership each month, the $30 that comes out of nowhere when it's time to buy those Lucy Dacus tickets, the added fees that your landlord thinks that
New York City is nothing without pizza.
It might become something now that Zoran's mayor, man. Taking out junk fees for everything on a city level is very unique. You know, I love that idea. I love that he basically took Lena Khan and gave her the ability to do whatever she wanted on like a local level, and I think that's great. For those who don't know, Lena Khan was like the chair of the FTC, I think it was, or the whoever deals with like these fees and stuff like that. And what she did was she's the reason that airlines had to pay you if they canceled your seat. She was the reason like late fees had to stop for a lot of things. She was the reason why overdraft fees or like no balance fees stopped on your bank accounts. So like Lena Khan is great, and a lot of that got undone in the Trump administration, but she is now doing a similar thing on the local level, and I love it. I'd move to New York City in a heartbeat if it was affordable.
And third, we are making our city safer and easier to get around. Whether we are paving the Williamsburg Bridge bump that causes so many bike accidents each day, or announcing that we are going to complete the redesign of McGinnis Boulevard as it was originally intended so that New Yorkers can actually bike through Greenpoint without fear, we are improving the streetscapes and the physical infrastructure of our city. And finally, we are placing New Yorkers, not billionaires or career politicians, at the heart of these efforts. On our second day in office, we established a new office, the Mayor's Office of Mass Engagement, led by Tasha Van Auken, who served as the field director on our campaign and helped us build a movement of more than 100,000 volunteers who knocked on millions of doors and made even more phone calls.
I sent it to the underdork.
This office is going to be something that ensures that people-powered is not just a buzzword or how we describe how we got here, but it is instead something that continues to define our politics and governs our decision-making and our policy proposals. We are moving at a pace that is as fast as the city that we love. In 6 days, we have signed 11 executive orders. Historically, it would take months to get to that number. Now that I know we built a movement around some pretty ambitious concepts, dignity, affordability, a government of the people, for the people. Now that we're in government,
I wish I could craft those arrows. Can you craft arrows?
We have both the privilege and the responsibility to free those concepts from abstraction and put them into practice. Already we are seeing that it is not only possible to do so, but it is transformative when we do so. Because when people see themselves and their interests reflected in governance, they care more about their democracy, they feel like they have a greater say in their city, and they participate more themselves. We can only deliver for all of us if all of us work to deliver. So thank you for being here, for continuing to share the not always glamorous work of government with the people of this city and far beyond, and for holding those of us fortunate to be your public servants to account. Thank you so much.
I'm also apologies if I can't find you in the crowd because the beard is a little bit bad, but let's start with
Hi, Layla.
I'm Layla. We met briefly at the primaries walking from Trump Tower to your debate. I'm a Persian Lebanese content creator here. In the past 6 months, I've had so much fun making content for you. I've personally reached over 120 million people around the world, so it's really impactful, and it's just been really an honor to do that for you. And I do it through just dancing and spreading joy. So now for my question. I've been living in the Upper East Side for 8 years in the same apartment. Every year, our rent goes up a tiny bit, but this year, on the eve of November 3rd, my landlord, who is kind and does try very hard, texted me and my roommate that he will be raising our rent 9.4% if we sign for 1 more year, or 6.25% if we re-sign for 2 more years. I love my apartment, I love its quirks, but there are several issues, which I'm sure a lot of other New Yorkers have, like falling apart walls, things being painted over, whatever is broken. I had a stalker that lived next door to me for 5 years that is now gone, thankfully. Lack of security, broken intercom system, things like that. And so I was wondering, how will the rental ripoff hearings be able to address concerns like this for myself and then other fellow New Yorkers who probably have much worse issues than this?
Good question.
Well, first of all, thank you for both sharing this question with us and the experiences that you've lived through as a New Yorker. The intent of the rental ripoff hearings, and also my selection of Sam Levine as our new commissioner for the Department of Consumer and Worker Protection, is to finally give New Yorkers a place where they can register these kinds of complaints and concerns. Some of the ripoffs that New Yorkers will speak about, I am sure, are the ones they've already shared with me. Ripoffs like being charged fees that they cannot explain, ripoffs like being charged for services that are actually now supposed to be incorporated within the rent. Some of them, however, will also align with what you have just shared, which is a denial of repairs oftentimes, or an inability to actually get the services that you are owed. And what we are looking to these ripoff hearings to do is not just to collect testimony, but rather to use it as an opportunity to create proposals for policy, implementation, and enforcement. And the last piece is critical, because a law's worth is only so much as a New Yorker's knowledge of that same law. And there are many laws that exist already to protect tenants, to protect workers, and yet if those tenants and workers do not know of them, then they can be taken advantage of. And so our work will be equal parts deliberation and legislation in partnership with the City Council, as well as enforcement. Thank you.
Thank you. Can everyone raise your hands so I can check in form just to make sure? Okay. Amaris at Bronx Native.
Yes, right here. Yes. First of all, how's everyone doing? Awesome. I just want to say you're doing an amazing job, and I'm super happy to be part of this movement, this new era. My question is, how can you help local entrepreneurs and business owners?
These are content creators. These are all content creators. Genius. Absolutely genius. I just realized it. I'm looking. Oh, I haven't really seen anybody's faces. The first question was like over here. Everybody in here looks under 40. Most people in here, I would say, look under 30. Maybe 35.
That are struggling to acquire physical
That's
spaces
awesome.
to run their business in the city, as well as help struggling local businesses to keep their spaces through this tough season right now.
Markiplier.
First quarter.
You know, I think it's so critical to highlight the entrepreneurs and the small businesses across our city. And too often we measure these small businesses by how many open, but we don't ask ourselves as much by how many close or how they're doing in between those two moments. And so we made a commitment over the course of the campaign and how we would cut red tape, how we'd make it easier for those small businesses to navigate the bureaucracy. And one of the critical things that I've also appreciated in making my appointment of Julie Su as the Deputy Mayor for Economic Justice is this is someone who will bring the understanding that what workers are facing in this city and what small businesses are facing in this city are part of a similar struggle that we have to deliver on. So it comes down to cutting red tape, cutting fines and fees, and also ensuring that where the city actually owns commercial properties, that we are doing everything we can to fill those properties. Thank you, brother.
So it's obvious that like your rental ripoff hearings, that addressing bad landlords and affordability are immediately within your time frame. Where in your timeline is addressing long-term housing solutions for homeless New Yorkers.
So this is a key part
Oh, that's a
of
good
the
question. Long-term housing for homeless communities.
portfolio of our Deputy Mayor of Housing and Planning, Layla Bozark, who has done incredible work in the past and is already hitting the ground running in putting together a housing plan for the long term, because we
I'm glad to
have
see-
to build an incredible amount.
Really glad to see that Zoran's in, like, he's been in office for 7 days, and it's absolutely beautiful what he's already doing. You know, you'd see somebody maybe 3 months in start doing half of these, maybe even one. Yeah, I think the spiders are going to the underwear because it doesn't show the death thing when I try to throw the small spiders. Huh, that would be interesting if you go down there and there's just like the phase spider matriarch. Dead spiders. You think they'll be no, what if they landed? I guess they would need Featherfall. They need Featherfall. I assume, yeah, that's what I was saying. They would need some kind of way to get Featherfall. Why is nobody talking about the Epstein files? That's like weird, right? I hear so much. But like, also, I think we can fix it. I think we can fix it. It's just not gonna fit back together the same. We're gonna have to, you know, we're going to live in a new world after this. I mean, we are now. This is a new world. Everything's changing, and it will always change.
Somos millones, cuéntanos bien. No somos uno, no somos 100. La migra, la misma porquería. La poli, la migra, la misma porquería. La poli, la migra, la misma porquería. Not for racist deportation. Not for racist deportation. Money for jobs and education. Money for jobs and education.
Damn.
Mayor Jacob Frey joins us tonight from Minneapolis. Mayor Frey, we thank you for joining the show, and I am sorry it is under, once again, these horrific circumstances. You've been very vocal against the ICE operations in your city. I want to play a little bit of what you said about the incident today. Let's play it.
They are already trying to spin this as an action of self-defense. Having seen the video of myself, I want to tell everybody directly, that is.
So, Mayor, after seeing multiple angles now of that video, do you stand by what you said earlier?
Of course, I stand by what I said. I won't preempt the investigation that is presently underway, as the state has said that the Bureau of Criminal Apprehension will be helping to investigate this case. But look, I got two eyes. All of you do too. And you can see for yourself what happened was reckless. And by the way, entirely predictable, because we have been saying, the chief and I vocally for, I don't know, over a month, that somebody was going to get hurt or killed, whether that was a civilian, a police officer, a federal agent. When you deploy, in this case, thousands of agents to Minneapolis, to our state, with no clear plan, that don't understand constitutional law, that clearly can't even drive in the snow that well, yeah, you're going to get problems. And then when they treat people the way they've been treating them, and by the way, this is not like the first instance of horrific treatment. They were dragging a pregnant woman through the snow. We've seen them indiscriminately pulling Latino and Somali people off the street. That is not the way we behave in America. In Minneapolis, we're going to stand up for our community. And tragically, this instance of reckless federal behavior, again, has resulted in somebody getting killed.
Mayor, DHS Secretary Kristi Noem just...
Yo, this guy should run for president. For real.
spoke. I want to play some of that sound and get your reaction on the other side. Here's what she had to say.
The ICE officer, fearing for his life and the other officers around him and the safety of the public, fired defensive shots. He used his training to save his own life and that of his colleagues. He was treated at a local hospital, has been released, and is now with family.
Mayor, what do you say to that?
That does not sound to me like a person that believes what they are saying. I think she also mentioned that there was some form of, this was domestic terrorism that the victim was involved in. That would be the first instance of domestic terrorism that involved like a 4-point turn, that the victim was clearly trying to leave the situation and get out of there. And by the way, leaving a situation and getting out of there is neither domestic terrorism, nor is it trying to ram a federal agent. It's trying to leave. None of that, by the way, can justify use of deadly force under the law. You don't need a law degree to know that.
The governor mentioned earlier that he thought federal agents should have done more to help this woman. In the first video, the original video that has been put out there, you don't see agents, and obviously they had just been shot at. It was a traumatic scene, but you don't see any first aid immediately being administered. Did that trouble you? Did you notice that from the videos?
So I don't know that I've seen that exact video. I certainly have heard about it. And yeah, you know, one of the responsibilities, a duty of a law enforcement entity is to make sure that people aren't killed. And so even if that individual was the one who shot, first aid should be administered in the immediacy. You know, our police officers got there, and 2 of them were in the ambulance driving down to help as soon as they can and going to the hospital. And, you know, that's what they need to be doing. But no, from what I have seen in these videos, this is not an example of what any officer of the law should be doing.
People are going to be watching this video and they're going to say to themselves, you know, there's 2 sides, right? The side we're hearing from you and the side we're hearing from Kristi Noem. And they're going to say, listen, that officer was in front of the car. It looked like the woman was accelerating. She shouldn't have done that. Law enforcement training says that's a lethal weapon. You can use force. My question to you, though, what people don't understand, the context, and I'm not saying this is an excuse or a reason for any of this violence, but the temperature right now in Minneapolis, it's winter, but it is incredibly hot. How would you describe that to other Americans? Because your own governor was asked, is the state of Minnesota at war with the federal government? And that sort of stunned me that question could even be asked in 2026. But is that what the feeling is like over there?
Well, I'll tell you what the feeling is. And the feeling is that in Minneapolis, in Minnesota, we are going to rise above. We are going to be our best versions of self. We're going to be wrapping our arms around this family because obviously they are suffering. We're going to be standing up rock solid for our immigrant neighbors because they are getting targeted and attacked. And we're not going to take the bait. We know that the Trump administration is looking for any excuse to come in and deploy a whole bunch of military and occupying force on.
It's gonna be a wild year. Yeah. This reminds me a lot of like the Black Lives Matter protests, like the tension that was throughout the country when that was happening. Wait, what is this? I have been informed by the Department of Defense that defense contractor Raytheon has been the least responsive to the needs of the Department of Defense, the slowest in increasing their volume, and the most aggressive spending on their shareholders rather than the needs and demands of the United States military. Raytheon seems to think that this is the Biden administration and that this is business as usual. It's not. Either Raytheon steps up and starts investing in more upfront investments like plans and equipment, or they will no longer be in business with the Department of Defense. Also, if Raytheon wants further business with the United States government, under no circumstances will they be allowed to do any additional stock buybacks where they spent tens of billions of dollars until they are able to get their act together. Our country comes first, and they are going to have to learn that the hard way. Oh my God. So after everything we've seen, here's what Trump has to say about Minneapolis. I've just viewed the clip of the event that took place in Minneapolis, Minnesota. This is a horrible thing to watch. The woman screaming was obviously a professional agitator, and the woman driving the car was very disorderly, obstructing and resisting, who then violently, willfully, and ridiculously ran over the ICE officer who seems to have shot her in self-defense. Based on the attached clip, it's hard to believe he's alive, but is now recovering in the hospital. The situation is being studied in its entirety, but the reason these incidences are happening is because the radical left is threatening, assaulting, and targeting our law enforcement officers and ICE agents on a daily basis. They're just trying to do the job of make America safe. We need to stand by and protect our law enforcement officers and from this radical left movement of violence and hate. Oh yeah, 2 Republicans died yesterday. God, I hate the comic book villain douche, yeah. Well, I'm like, this whole thing right here is him talking about how defense contractors aren't going to do stock buybacks or executive pay, or like no executive should be allowed to make in excess of $5 million, which is funny because he's like an executive / CEO of some companies. Is it like, I can't believe he's trying to tell businesses how to run. That's wild. And they're going to bend the knee. They're going to bend the knee. And like here, he's asking for the military budget to be increased to $1.5 trillion. But you can't have health care. You can't have any kind of help whatsoever. You know, you can't afford groceries, but you can afford to go to war and have a $1.5 trillion spending budget on the military. It was a great honor to speak with the President of Colombia, Gustavo Petro, who called to explain the situation of drugs and other disagreements that we have had. I appreciated his call and tone and look forward to meeting him in the near future. Arrangements have been made between Secretary of State Marco Rubio and the Foreign Minister of Colombia. The meeting will take place in the White House in Washington. No, don't go. No, he's going to throw you in jail. Don't. No. Don't do it, Gustav. All right. I'm running out of steam, so I think I'm going to get out of here for the night. We're going to raid, so don't leave. Thank you everyone for being here tonight. I very much appreciate it. I will definitely, hopefully, be back to my regular self tomorrow. And do more other stuff. And that the budget to the military isn't even going to most of the troops. A lot of active duty military is at poverty. Yeah, exactly. None of it's going to the troops. None of it goes to the veterans. It all goes to weapons. It's disgusting. Ah, Tim's on. All right, everybody. We're going to raid into Tim. I hope you guys have a safe and wonderful night. I will be back tomorrow, where maybe we'll do some Animal Crossing. Maybe we'll do some paint to research that may or may not be pan out. Yeah, exactly. I know they just like eat money over there at the Pentagon. Anyway, I'll see you guys. Bye.